Futures trying to hold on to break even at this point. Pretty quiet to start things off on Black Friday. Happy shopping day for everyone. It is a holiday shortened session today. The market going to close at 1 p.m. this afternoon. That being said, there is a ton moving around here this morning and a ton to talk about as far as headlines that could matter as well. We'll touch on Tesla. We'll touch on a few things actually coming out of China. Xpeng and Volkswagen, a little more details announced as far as their partnership and a brand new platform, EV platform that Volkswagen will venture into the Chinese market with Nvidia as well, a Chinese headliner related, going to delay the launch of this latest chip that was aimed at getting around some of these U.S. restrictions. So we'll touch on that as well. Dollar back upside this morning, yields back to the upside this morning as well. So could be in for a bit of a pullback here for the overall market. It's Friday, November 24th, 2023. Tradertv.live starts now. Yeah, there's the SPY for you this morning, 11.3%. Bottom to top for the overall market, going back to that late October, early November low. We're hanging out here right at the highs. A bit of a quiet start to the morning as expected, coming off Thanksgiving. Happy belated U.S. Thanksgiving to our friends south of the border. Hope everyone enjoyed their day off yesterday. It was nice. Let's be honest. It was nice to take a break and get a breather. And how was your day?
It was good. It was a chill day. Saw a little bit of what was going on. The futures were open till about 1 o'clock. Kept my eye on that. But yeah, man, it's been a November to remember. Up over 11%, 11.11. Neil pointed out to me earlier. It's a good look. We'll see what's on tap today. I expect lower volume, obviously, as most traders take the day off.
Yeah. Again, the session wrapping up at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So housekeeping to start things off. The morning going to be exactly the same as it always is. We'll go right through to 11. You guys will take it then from 11 till 12 o'clock, and then we'll come back again and wrap things up with the hour from 12 to 1 p.m. as if it was from 3 until 4 o'clock. This is the time of year that we start getting analysts coming out with their projections for what is going to happen going into the new year. So we'll start to hear a lot about where the S&P is going to go, what's going to be the major headline, things of that nature. So a few interesting notes this morning I was reading through before we came on, suggesting that it could be a tale of before we start getting cuts. Talking about next year, obviously what the market is going to do is going to be a tale of before we start getting cuts and then what happens to the market after we start getting cuts. But as I said, some yields moving back to the upside today.
Yeah, and I think the market's really looking for those rate cuts. And the sectors that have been absolutely beat up by higher rates, case in point, solar. Most of these stocks are down like 70 to 80% on the year. I'm not giving any financial advice, but this is oftentimes, typically good buying opportunities. So have a look at that sector, learn it. Just brought to my attention this morning, but we'll have to wait and see how we do the rest of the year.
Yeah, I wanted to mention this real quick before we bring the guys in here. This was, if you go back to 3 days ago, we had this crazy round trip. First, the move down on oil. This is oil, FYI, and then we end up closing basically right back to where it started the day. So we are coming off here pretty heavy right now for crude oil, 1.2% to the downside. That was on that OPEC Plus headline. They came out and said they were going to delay their next meeting for a month, so we won't hear from them for another month. So we got that huge round trip, big wick on a daily candle for oil. Sean enjoying an extra long weekend today. Obi is in for Sean. Good morning, guys.
Good morning. Welcome back. I hope everybody enjoyed. Either you enjoyed your Thanksgiving, had it with family. I hope you enjoyed the food if you did that. If you just enjoyed the day off from trading in the markets, then hope you had a productive day. I know what I'm thankful for this morning, however. I'm thankful to the floor manager and risk manager, Brankles, for bringing, he comes in with cookies and says, everybody that comes in on the half day gets cookies, so you know I've got two. This is like a chocolate chunk, and then this is like little white chocolate chunks there. Obi's got his as well.
Chocolate chunk
so,
for sure. And
We're
chocolate chip.
We're starting it off right already. Pretty happy for that. Look, this is one of these days. Anybody that's traded, if you traded a half day or if you traded around a holiday before, you kind of understand the need to be a little bit more patient. You want to make sure, you always want to make sure you're trading active names and the names that are in play. This is the kind of day where that becomes doubly important. The open tends to see a little bit more action for obvious reasons than the close. So, Nvidia is going to be in play, no questions about that. You'll see Xpeng in play. Most certainly Fisker as well. They've gapped up and have that short float, so that's going to be one heavy on watch. And cannot forget about ARM. The volume that came into ARM on Wednesday was insane. 10% move for ARM. That's another one that has to be on watch. I have some theories about it. We talked about this on Wednesday. I had some theories about what made a lot of sense post-earnings for them and why it would be strong. And do not forget about crypto, the market that does not sleep. You see all of the names. It was Riot, Mara, Coin, all doing pretty well. As 38,000, it got touched. It got there and kind of pulled back a little bit, but still in that bull run.
Yeah, we're, again, I definitely agree with Neil. Got to stay patient as possible today. And yeah, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. I hope you guys had some good times with the family and friends. And yeah, definitely thankful for this craziness that we've been getting in the market, Neil. We've been seeing some crazy volatility. We were just talking about some of these swipes on some of these large caps. But again, a little bit of a half day today. You can expect it to be a little muted. Gonna be as patient as possible and try to make the best of whatever opportunities that may present themselves today. But yeah, let's hopefully have an awesome trading day today, guys.
Just seeing Canadian retail sales month over month, actual 0.6 to the upside. Bit of a beat there to the upside for retailers here in this country. I mean, yeah, things pretty quiet as far as individual stocks are concerned to start things off this morning. Saw that move in oil, so it's kind of interesting, 1.2% to kick things off. More importantly, what are you shopping for today?
You know what? Nothing, Brendo.
Really?
Yeah. I've got all that I can handle at the moment. But yeah, I'm gonna keep my eye, whatever, any deals come my way, but I've got nothing specific. How about yourself?
I mean, I always spend Black Friday and then Cyber Monday online. And I try to get all of my shopping done, holiday shopping done in these next two, today and then Monday. So we'll see. I don't have anything specific, but I'll do a lot of browsing today. But yeah, Ramin showed up with shopping bags in hand, prepared for getting out, I guess, at some point.
Should we tell everybody that she came in with ice cream at
yeah, she was also eating ice cream when she got here this morning. So.
Yeah.
Neil, Obi, what are you guys shopping for today?
So, first of all, guy at LAX, look, I'm gonna dip my cookie in my coffee because I happen to enjoy it. So if it's apparently, and I don't know if this is true, if it's bad etiquette, I've never heard of cookie etiquette in my life, other than make sure you don't waste it. Bad cookie etiquette is not enjoying it. That's the only thing as far as I'm concerned. So let's get that out of the way. But we had a good discussion this morning about coffee, which I know what I'm going to shop for because in the chat this morning, and I forget who said this. Was it Ponzi? You guys let me know who it was that was mentioning there was a deal at Sam's Club on a Jura coffee maker, which is the brand that we have here that Sean showed last week. It's not the same one because it was like $1,300, which there's no chance you get the one we have for $1,300. But then the discussion came about how it's more important, and then Brendan's the one that brought this up, how you grind the beans as opposed to the machine you make it in. So in that vein, I'm like, well, I suddenly want a new grinder, or a better one at least. So if anybody knows a good deal on a very high quality coffee grinder, I don't have a bad one, but I would not describe mine as a good one. So I would be very interested in that. So I'm going to be looking for that probably after I go home and maybe like in between shows or something like that. Or you guys will just let me know what to do, and then I'll be all good and set up in that way. But I found like you always have to scrounge for a few deals here and there. Like my wife and I, we usually have an idea of this is the kind of thing we want for the house, and then we might wait to buy it. The thing to consider here in Canada, though, is we'll get deals now, but then we get them again in Boxing Day. And I find for electronics, we don't always do better shopping Black Friday over Boxing Day here, but that's just me.
I think the Cyber Monday is probably more for but the thing is, I don't know. I've noticed over the past couple of years the sales have been relatively the same. Like the difference is not that big. I think like a lot of Black Friday deals are like 50 to 70% off right now. Cyber Monday will pretty much give you roughly the same on a lot of electronics. But yeah, no, I'm looking for some hard drives. My hard drives are filling up with a lot of recordings, so I gotta get a new hard drive. And I was thinking maybe like a home network hard drive, so I can just empty the ones I have onto there, and then just have like that database at home. Just
That sounds
that's
fair.
what I'm looking for.
No, that sounds fair. Just quickly back to this, because apparently we got a poll going on here. What are you looking forward to more, Black Friday, Cyber Monday? You're going to see me quickly voting here for Cyber Monday. But to each your own. To try to even like remotely take that back to the markets, there's a bunch of streaming deals that are going like aggressive. All the streamers have aggressive deals right now in terms of what you can get. Like, so if you're like many who probably care too much about streaming, even when you don't watch a lot, I think you want to be able to check out those. And I've read a few reports, and some people are saying that there's more people are going to shop deals this year, which is a little bit surprising. You would have heard those stories about the consumer is starting to get strapped. So there are some signs that it could be a strong season for that. We'll see how some of the retailers do. Although I find today is not necessarily the day that you want to look for any reaction always out of the retail type names. I think you kind of look to see when the numbers come out, and then going a little closer into December to get a sense of where they're starting to trade out there. I mean, you're still more concerned about, say, post-Walmart earnings than you are about how they're doing on Black Friday. We'll get a better sense of that going into the next couple of weeks.
All right, let's get Michael Noss in here for a Friday roundup of how the markets have been. I mean, with the holiday, it's been a little bit quiet. Mr. Noss, good to see you. Thanks for jumping on this morning in a holiday shortened version of the market today. It's important, I think, to say out of the gate here, volume across the board has been down this week. Today, however, could be the top of the low volume days for this week, again, wrapping up at 1 o'clock. So why don't we talk about Bitcoin?
Exactly. As a junkie with no charts to look at yesterday, I was jiving a little bit. So I did dip into the cryptos and see how they were doing, and they looked like they're holding up strong. But as somebody who is increasingly worried with all of the exchange stuff going on, we now have Binance that may be having a problem. I know Kraken was getting sued by the government. I'm going to keep my money in the equity space, right? So I want to see how can I, if I am bullish Bitcoin, how can I express that in the equity space? So that being said, right, you just need to know that all these trades are going to be subject to a 24/7 market, which is Bitcoin. So there is a little bit of risk that you're taking over the weekends and when the market's closed. But the first chart I have up here is just the Bitcoin ETF. This is, not the pure Bitcoin ETF. You didn't miss that, but it's BITO, and BITO is a ETF based on the Bitcoin futures. So you have a little bit, a third derivative kind of removed from everything. But this is a pretty good job of tracing the overall Bitcoin price if you zoom out. A little bit of a gap up today, but you can see the nice tight bull flag that's going on here in Bitcoin. And that line around kind of $18 or so I drew, if you go back on the chart a little bit, that ends up being a breakout area. So we broke out, we're holding it, we're getting kind of tight in this range. And again, I noticed some strength yesterday into the Bitcoin space. So I, as always, and what we do at Trade Ideas, I started hunting and pecking under the hood to see what I could find to trade that I think will give me the best risk reward play and the least amount of capital at risk while I'm holding these positions. So next chart here is BITQ, which is an ETF that I just learned existed. But this is an ETF that instead of going over the actual Bitcoin and holding Bitcoin as a currency, what it's doing, it's an ETF of the innovators, it calls it. So crypto miners, large holders, exchanges, that type of thing. And I've said it a million times and I'll say it a million times more because I think it's important, is I've been taught to buy smiley faces and sell frowny faces. And it looks like a little bit of a smiley face is setting up here for me in the Bitcoin Innovators Fund. So I went in, the next slide here is just the top holdings. The top three, I think, was enough because between MicroStrategy, Coinbase, and Marathon, it's like 30-ish% of the entire ETF. So if you want to just trade the diversified basket of these Bitcoin innovators, then that BITQ would be for you. I'm looking for a little bit more juice, so I'm going to go through those top three names with you guys now, starting with MSTR. So this is the Michael Saylor Fund. This is also, in my opinion, right now, I don't think anybody actually knows or that the revenues from this company are material anymore. I really think this is a leveraged Bitcoin ETF. The Bitcoin ETF everybody was hoping for. You can see the exact same move. I drew the same horizontal line of the breakout. It's doing the same tightening pattern above that horizontal line, which I really like. One benefit to this is that 24% short float. These are our new web charts where we have the fundamentals right on top of the technicals, which I love. 24% short float on this name is pretty wild if this can get going at about $515 a share. So that's a little bit expensive. The next one down is Coinbase. I'm not a big fan of this just because it looks like you missed the move. It looks like the breakout of that low base was the way to take Coinbase. Now you're up a long, long way to get to prior highs. And that's just, for me, I'm not too interested in buying this. They may be the ultimate winner of Bitcoin if we do make this next leg higher, but it's just too far, too fast for me. So what I've settled on, and I know I've talked about this with you guys before, is Mara. So Mara had a wild short float that's unwound a little bit, but it's still 25%. So 1 in 4 shares of Mara are short. It's been putting in this big rounded bottom, the smiley face that I talked about in the BITQ as well. Looks like it's poking its little head over there. Now, full disclosure, actually, while I was in the green room, I did get a little bit of it. I'll always tell you when I own some. So I own a little bit of this, but what I'm waiting for is we're gapping up a little bit today, is if that gap can hold, if it pulls back to a major support, if I get a nice tight opening range or something, that's when I'm going to enter this one. Stop is basically right below this line. So you could use $10 as a whole number if you're looking for a longer term trade and just say, hey, if it closes under $10, I think it's time to go. Thing I love about this one is the last time it broke out of this $10, with this massive short float, it rocketed all the way to $20 a share. You can see on the left-hand side of that chart. So can it happen again? Yes. That would be make a very Merry Christmas for me if it does. I'm not going to bet on that though. You know, I'm risking buying around 11 or 12 and risking to 10. So I'm risking about $2 a share. So if I can get $4 a share or more on this trade, which gets around 15 bucks, I'd be happy. Anything above that, again, is just a better Christmas for everyone in the Nos household, I guess.
Hey, Michael, good to talk to you. Sharif here.
Hey, man.
Hey, man. Look, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I was doing a little bit of charting yesterday. I know you do that every night. And I noticed a bit of a divergence between the NDX, like the actual index, and the NQ's futures contract. So I was doing some charting. Here we go. Let's have a look. So this is the NDX, the index. And, you know, I was looking at the lower highs consistently, and I had the trend line there. I waited for the break of the actual trend line. Now, the second thing that I was looking for was the making of a new high. And on the index, we actually got the making of a new high, but I was charting the equivalent move here on the NQ, whether I looked at the continuous contract or whether I looked at the December expiry, we didn't have the making of a new high. First of all, I want to ask you, with respect to that divergence, just any commentary you had on that, and then which one do you look at as more of the real one?
I will generally look at the ETF. Now, the divergence comes from a couple things, and it can be the difference, and this gets really into complicated future stuff, but it could be the difference between what's backwardization and contango, basically looking at the difference between the current month contract and the forward month contract and what futures traders expect to see. It's one thing I actually like about the ETFs is how they're structured, is they hold all of the individual components of it. The futures do the same, but they're this leveraged up kind of rolling over an expiring asset. So what I will say is that if you combine that, you see the futures contract at that resistance. We also have the SPY that hasn't broken through that yet. We still have the IWM that's weak. I would kind of look at that, as opposed to one is more important than the other, as kind of a holistic picture. So if you start to see the futures start to fail there and the SPY starts to fail where it is, then that's when I'd start to say, okay, now we're going to look at the futures as opposed to the individual ETF.
Okay, thanks, Michael. Thanks for that.
Thanks.
Michael Na, CMT at Trade Ideas. Have a happy shortened Friday session here and a great weekend. We'll talk again on Monday.
Talk to you on Monday.
Thank you very much, as always, Michael. And I think a few people here, I mean, day trading, will be interested in Mara. No questions asked. I don't know whether you can put the whole, it's a 24-hour market, and maybe these will have a little bit more activity throughout the day today on a half day, because they are still equity names at the end of the day. But if you were trading on Wednesday, you do remember that this one in particular made a nice test of $11 right at the close. It was a short for me here, like into 11 the first time. It had decent pullback into 75, but it's still a bull run. And now holding above that $11 level, at least attempting to at the open, I should say. If it hangs on to 11, you've got a good gap on the daily chart. At least, I mean, for the day trader, you're kind of looking at that gap and saying, okay, well, if it got to 12, you're perfectly happy. Recognizing that the next resistance is probably $12.50. I don't think you expect 12.5 on a day like today, holiday shortened. But if it's able to hold 11, and even if it dips 11 while holding previous close, which is at about 1090, then the retracement back through 11 even, I'd look for the long. But with everything today, very patient setups, not chasing moves. This is not a day where I would say, I'm going long through the break at the quarter at the high of the day, and I'm giving it to 11 even. Not the kind of day I would want to put up that quarter risk. So it's 25 cents, but you're also looking at over 2% to try to hold something for it to go all day long. So I'd be very, very cautious with doing a setup like that, where you're just taking that breakout, looking for it to go from 25 all the way to 12, and you're risking all the way back into 11. I don't want that type of a trade on a holiday shortened day. I'd much rather get something off of the 11 even itself.
Yeah, again, Mara not the only one, right? There's a few other names as well, but Mara doing some. I'm looking at both Mara and Riot, and yeah, both tickers doing some decent RVOL in the pre-market. So yeah, out the open will definitely be interesting on some of these names. And those of you who are a little bit more have a larger risk appetite, there's always MSTR. As well, another MicroStrategy, another crypto-related ticker, kind of hovering and churning around that 500 mark over the past week or so as well. So yeah, if all of these Bitcoin and crypto-related tickers get going, I think you might be able to catch definitely some moves on these names today. Definitely going to be on watch.
All right, let's get some analyst moves. Sharif and I were just talking about how quiet it is on the upgrades and downgrades side of things today, but Adara has a few over at the screen.
We have Fresenius Medical Group here with a upgrade from HSBC Securities. HUTCHMED with an upgrade from Deutsche Bank today. New Oriental with an upgrade from Goldman. And last but not least, Cal also with an upgrade from Goldman Sachs this morning. In terms of downgrades, China Resistance has downgraded Gao2 today. Lexin with a downgrade from Citigroup, even though it is trading up almost 5% right now, so it's definitely one to watch. We also have John Deere. This was a recent earnings move with a downgrade from TD Cowen, and last but not least, Telecom with a downgrade from Scotiabank, guys.
I'm betting just about anything that none of you have heard of any of those companies on the upgrade list today. Let's be real for a second. I know you haven't. John Deere we've all heard of. John Deere also with a I can say a big ass move. A big move to the upside despite getting quadunked on earnings. It was 20, okay, it wasn't $20. I'd say 20 if I wanted to be dramatic, but it was like $17 bottom to top. Which for a stock that was down almost, I think it was almost double digits at one point on Wednesday, the rally it made off the 55 area, and it was a straight shot. A little bit of a stair-step play to the upside, but if it can start to hang on to this, we always talk about day 2, day 3 type plays. Okay, well, if it's a stock you don't normally look at, then you might look at it for an opportunity on earnings and then give it a couple more days where you think you might get some extra activity. And then after that, it goes back to being whatever it was for you, which is more of like an investment kind of stock. Now, it's got a clear downward channel on John Deere, no question about that. What it tried to do is wick underneath that bottom. This would be like 358, wick underneath that bottom, put in the higher low. Like look at, like right at 58 when it came back through is kind of where this got some juice. I don't think we see that price again. That seems pretty extreme, especially for a half day. But the real breakout at the open was off of 65. I mean, as long as this is above 65, I'd be thinking continuation of the buying that was in there previously. It's a good company. It's a solid company. Personally, I prefer Caterpillar in the long term, but I don't think you can generally go wrong looking for continuation moves as a general setup post earnings. Like this showed you a bottom. Now all it has to show you is like a previous key level turning into a support and another possible stair step to the upside. That said, it's at 369, and I'm talking about 365 as support. So patience is certainly a virtue if this goes breaking out off the open. It's not going to be at the front of my radar, but if this stock sets up in the first 10, 15 minutes off the 65 area, and I'm scanning for ideas, I know that one's out there, and I can go to that level. To me, that's one of the reasons why, like I'll get my iPad out in the morning, I might have 4 or 5 names that these are the ones I really am most interested in. You know, and it might be like Fisker and Xpeng, like today, and Nvidia, maybe like I put like an ARM obviously in there as well, but I'll always have key price levels that have potential setups that I like, just in case those are the things that get in there. Because otherwise, what I tend to find happens is if I don't have those ideas, you force the trades in the stocks that you want to be doing something else. Like, well, I want Fisker to be making this move. It's not, but I'm just going to force trading it anyways because it's on my list. That's what you don't want to do. So for my style, I always like to have some extra setups. We'll see about Deere at 65 if it gives us that opportunity. I think it was a good start for them to recover after earnings. Next step would be to hold some higher lows.
Yeah, I like that continuation move, showing some very, very good strength. Again, off the 350, right? Grabs onto VWAP, grabs on the VWAP and continues to bid up. But we're looking left, we're knocking right back up into some of these resistance levels that we had before the earnings report, kind of the support turned potentially resistance here. But I do also like that psychological 375. We've gotten about a 50% retracement or a reversion off of this earnings drop into the 350, and then 350 got bought up. So definitely going to be watching for that continuation, or if that 375 stays heavy, got to stay like water.
Quickly, note on Fisker this morning, catching a bit of a bid here, back to the upside after, this absolute plummet from, I mean, you go back to mid-October, this thing was $5.56, bounces off of $2. And executive changes to be aware of today.
Yeah, you guys will recall that they actually postponed earnings because their chief accounting or the chief financial officer was leaving, and they were leaving, unannounced. It had been quite abrupt. Now they have a new individual coming in, and essentially what they're saying here is no changes have been made despite the new leadership. So we'll see how they do. It was not a good earnings look for them. We'll recall that they built far more cars than they were actually able to deliver. So there's clearly a demand issue here with higher rates.
Yeah, as we saw going back to Wednesday, EV stocks in general were a little bit on the weak side of things, but we are seeing a bit of a pop here, guys, today, depending on which one you're looking at.
Yes, sir. Fisker up 8%. It's worth keeping in mind. Some of that rally on Wednesday has to do with the fact the stock was short sell restricted. I mean, it got destroyed 2 days in a row, was down double digits a couple of days in a row, so it was still in SSR territory when it made that bottom. If you're watching us, which you should be every single day if you're trading the markets, then I was in this trade. The first bounce it gave was right in here at about 185. And I was in like the short off of that area, like a 187 short. It eventually did break out. I can look back and say to myself, okay, well then it could have been, because it was SSR, it could have been a reversal. There's no question about that. Like that was like that first bounce zone. It ended up being a decent resistance spot and then sort of an easy out when it broke above VWAP to mitigate risk. But it just trended up from there. And you can get that when a stock is short sell restricted. because it's a little bit more difficult for the shorts to pile in. That's the reason they have the rule in the first place. And you can see relief rallies start with that as a bit of a catalyst off of the bottom. But all that aside, it's a 42% short float. So, keep it simple, stupid is kind of the way I think about things. And if you make a bottom like that on volume and then hold a higher low, I'm looking for at least a continuation on uptrend. And the first level that came to mind is looking back on Tuesday. There was 2020, which was the other, that's the other good short, like breakdown, first pop, double top into 2020. Look what just held, 2020. That's the number that got in my notes. So as long as it holds that 2020 level, I want to look long for potential mini squeeze here. So Fisker, say whatever you want about these EV names. At some point, there's going to be bounces. At some point, there are going to be shorts covering. So as beat up as all of these names, Fisker, Lucid, Rivian, Polestar, PSNY, you got to respect the fact that when they start to bounce, there are some shorts that are going to want to unwind, whether it's the shorter duration or the longer duration, or a little bit of both. So my first look today would be a continuation on Fisker.
Yeah, I think that's a good look there, Neil. I just pulled up Fisker on the hourly here. Take a look at this volume, expanding volume going into that what is this 170 low right here, but that expanding volume is definitely nice. Sure, the overall trend is definitely to the downside since this consolidation, this $7 kind of can't really get through for the past few months. But yeah, I think we're definitely setting up for a potential move, especially with this expanding volume going into this level. Again, how much further can it go lower? Only about $2.30. How much higher can it go back to the bounce? I think it definitely has some more room on the upside there, Neil.
All right, let's get into everything else you need to know as we head towards the open here on a Friday. Sharif, as always, will kick things off with a look at the market.
45.67, guys. That was the closing print yesterday. We traded for a little bit, and we're continuing to make higher lows, but we are at that resistance level from mid-September. Let's see if we can clear it decisively. The next obvious hurdle is that 4,600 level. That takes us above the September highs as an area of support. I'm thinking the overnight low, 45.62 or 45.50.
All right, if you have not done so yet, very easy. You can scan that QR code or go to watchlist.tradertv.live and enter your email address, and then we do all your homework for you, and it just shows up in a very organized email for you every single day from us for free. Let's go. NVIDIA, top of the list this morning. Big gap downside here. We have clawed our way basically all the way back at this point, just 0.6 left to go here to get positive. But they are going to delay this second iteration of this China AI chip that, if you remember, the first iteration of the US government restrictions got updated to include the last version of this chip. So they updated this chip to be able to, it's just like this continuing circle that goes round and round and round. Long story short, chip is delayed. We'll see what happens for NVIDIA.
Yeah, and it's not an insignificant market for them, guys. They do about 20% of their revenues from China, so they need to get this right. If they're going to circumvent these embargo restrictions, they're going to have to make sure it's done right. So as Brendo was saying, the new chip called the H20, this one is specifically designed with the new embargo restrictions and rules in mind. These basically are the A800 and the A800 chip, where the old two chips that were made for China, they're no longer allowed to be sold there. So they're going to have to find newer markets for them. But I don't think that's a problem.
No.
Because in the earnings, we kept hearing about the demand exceeding supply. Yeah. So they'll be able to move them. Let's just see how they're able to do in China, though.
If you go back 2 days, we're holding this low coming off the earnings move. If you zoom out to a daily chart, it's worth noting. Monster volume on the earnings day, but trying to get back to the close there, guys, for Friday.
Yes, sir. And, look, NVIDIA has done this dance with 400 to 500 a couple of times now, and the bounce to 400 doesn't always get to 500, but each time it's bounced off of 500, and I'm talking about the one time it came back down, you eventually made your way all the way back in. I don't know if that's going to happen, but I would expect to at least retest 470 at some point, like at a minimum. That's this previous peak here, and on closes, it was actually exactly 470-ish, 75 being just the top wick. So I think at some point you're getting back to that number, if not the 50-period moving average on Nvidia. The fact you have this delay in China with releasing the chip to China probably gives you a different catalyst as well if you wanted to just lean into that. If you go back and sort of look at on a 15-minute here, I'm using my trade ideas. My 15 wasn't really cooperating as well. But you're still getting some lower highs that are being put in. Now, I want to respect a few levels. One of them being, you can see 490 in here. You can see 493. I think if you got that strong to the upside, I'd be thinking fade. But also have to consider the close at 486. We just curl off that level. So that's setting up for at the open to be a fade at that 186. And because we're talking about a chip name, I'm going to go right on over and mention ARM. ARM, in my theory, is that you had a couple of things happen with ARM on Friday, one of which NVIDIA's call talked about some of their new GPUs using ARM technology, which gives ARM some expansion into a vastly growing market, which is fantastic for them. On top of that, ARM had reported their first earnings since going public. Another reason why you might have had some money flowing into them. And it had every signature of program buying, someone just like trying to ramp into this stock. Because once it stopped on a dime as if it was some kind of, I don't know, like squeeze stock or something along those lines. It was insane. But ARM, we'll see if the buying comes back into it. The levels are pretty simple because that was 60, that was 61. If we do start breaking out and going stair-step, then I want to play a stair-step pattern up. Like if it breaks the high here and I'm not in a long position, I'm looking to get longs on the first consolidation. When it breaks, you're looking to get longs in there. Like to me, that's like the stair-step setup. If it starts doing it again, I'm just a joiner as far as I'm concerned. If it does dip down in, I know the levels at which, if it holds, I'm a buyer off those levels. I know I'll be wrong underneath 61. If it breaks underneath 60, I'm not even thinking about the long anymore. But ARM, fantastic day. I think it was one of the biggest runners on Wednesday, at least the biggest runner that I was looking at.
Yeah, I think that's a good look there on ARM. Again, they're very involved very deeply in a lot of chip manufacturers, right? So I think that's a good point there, pointing that out. But yeah, Nvidia kind of still well within its earnings reaction range, kind of the high being here at that 509, the low being right underneath that 470 right there. But again, half day today, potentially a little muted day, but at the same time, it is second day earnings for Nvidia, and we did sell off quite significantly off of this 500. And yeah, we have been kind of chopping and churning in and around that 500. So going forward today, this will definitely be interesting to see if there's going to be a continued selling from day one, right? Day one main picture kind of was strong selling off the open. You try to claim VWAP, and then you kind of close right in and around VWAP as well. So these prices are definitely going to be interesting right here. For me, kind of this high, this low right here. Let's see what we do with this range. Haven't really broken out of earnings reaction.
All right, Tesla, a little more details coming out this morning in regards to what we've been discussing on the India side of things over the past couple of weeks. Close to a deal for a plant. Looks like they're prepared to spend up to $2 billion on a possible manufacturing facility in that country. There's been talks back and forth between regulators in India and Elon trying to figure this out, it looks like. But the Economic Times reporting this morning up to $2 billion going into India.
Yeah, can you blame Tesla? They want access to the most populous country in the world, and it's booming right now as an economic unit. Now, you'll recall that Prime Minister Modi and Elon Musk met in New York earlier this year, and basically Elon Musk said afterwards that they had reached an agreement in principle for Tesla to move into India. So here's the details. Tesla's going to invest about $500 million initially, and that will remove about tariff on about 12,000 Tesla imports into India. Then subsequent to that, the investment will increase to about $2 billion, and then the duty will be removed off 30,000 vehicle imports. And we know they make them in China, and that's right around the corner. So then we know they ship them to Europe, so I'm sure they're going to ship them to India too.
Yeah. As far as the chart, I mean, holding Wednesday's low, I keep saying yesterday, but Wednesday's low coming into play here this morning, guys, for Tesla.
was bullish on Wednesday, then Tesla's was more or less the polar opposite of it. I mean, it wasn't as extreme of a move, but it wasn't any good. I just want to shout out in the chat, appreciate everybody sort of reminding those in here. The holiday shortened day, we have equities closing at 1, you've got bonds closing at 2. I think oil is like 130. And I'm not sure about natural gas, but I think oil's closing at 130. So we're going to have, it's usually a regular style open in terms of what you usually see, the timing of everything. It's just things will slow down. The closes will be adjusted. Obviously, everything stays the same with the imbalances. Like instead of imbalances coming at 350, they'll just come at 1250, 10 minutes before. So all that kind of stuff is going to stay the same. Tesla in here, I'm telling you, like it was super weak, and when this happens, I mean the level's going to stand out. Like 235 half here, right at about 10:30, or a couple of times, 10, then at 10:30, it rejected that. You can see a triple bottom at 231.5. That is also your pre-market low. Now it's closer to resistance than it is to support right now. Oh, my 15 doesn't like me, so we're just gonna. I'll stay over here. It's fine. When I see a gap like this on Tesla, and it's not as if 235.5 is nothing. I mean, just the day before, you broke the heck out off that level, right? Like you broke out off that level, and then the following day, you retrace the entire move with the exact same high to put it in as resistance. I mean, if you're not looking at that as a resistance level this morning, and it doesn't matter how you want to trade off a key level, if you want to fade it first and stop it out above at 36, or if you want to break it out at 36 and give it back into 35, I think both of those are valid today. I'm very much willing to do a reversal on support level, or sorry, resistance levels. I just feel on a holiday, I always want to respect the tops when I see them, and I want to respect the bottoms until you prove to me you're trading outside of the range on a shortened day. That's usually my take. Rivian is, I've just generally liked trading Rivian recently. I mean, it's got really good volatility. What's going on with this stock at the $16 level, it gives you a lot of scalping whoa, okay, that's interesting. It gives you a lot of scalping opportunities off the $16 levels. I quickly pivot to my 16-minute chart, or a 15-minute, which is now suddenly not showing that. But every time it's gotten to 16 even, you'll have a consolidation, then move off of it. Consolidation, move off of it. You can only see half today, but trust me, it's the same thing. If this holds on to 16 at the open, I'm looking for a long and a possible breakout at 16.15 on Rivian. The other thing to consider with them is they've been forming this nice base off the $15 level into a descending wedge. So the scalp trade suggests you can look for little itty-bitty moves, but if it breaks down, and I don't think there's any chance we see it at 15 today, it would have to move $1. If it breaks down here to 15, all roads have been leading to that price. That is the bigger level where I'd expect a bigger move and not just a scalp trade. If I'm trading off 16 today, I'm probably looking for small 10, 15 cent moves. If it gets to $15, I'm looking for a $0.50 move, bouncing off that or even breaking through. So, Rivian, it's given you these chances. If I just see it barcoding off 16, you probably see me want to scalp that almost all day.
Yeah, something I've been noticing recently is like the sympathy on a lot of these other names has been a little bit disconnected. Like Tesla's kind of doing its own thing here, and yeah, quite heavy there. A little bit of a shake and bake action there, pointed out by Neil, off of that 434, 435 area here. But yeah, very distinctly clear kind of support in this area where we're doing a lot of chop again. Looking for potential continuation off of into this support, that 435 resistance. Let's see if that selling that literally basically engulfed this buying off of this 234, if there's going to be continuation back down through that level. I'm definitely going to be watching this 231.5 right here, previous day low, just as simple as that, and looking for that continuation. But again, being a half day, not really expecting too much. Let's see if these levels actually come into play and there's overwhelming pressure either way, right?
All right, we'll touch on Apple here. Sharif and I were just saying, I mean, from a chart standpoint and price action standpoint this morning, there's not much to look at. But I mean, from a higher perspective, and you were making the point, from an overall look, this could be bigger down the road or could be an actual bigger story. But some of the sales data from Singles Day in China came out suggesting that not only was Apple significantly lower, but some of the Chinese brands, Xiaomi and Huawei, much, much higher year over year.
Exactly. And as I was saying to Brendo, I mean, the comp for Huawei, which was all but dead last year, you know, it's a little skewed because you're really starting from a really depressed position for them. 66% though is what they grew year over year. We're talking about sales for Singles Day, which runs from October 30th to November 12th. We've got a lot of data back from a lot of the Chinese retailers there about how iPhone sales did with respect to some Chinese competitors, and iPhone sales were down 4%. But when you take the other side of that coin, it's possible that there were supply chain issues. We've been hearing a lot made about the iPhone Pro Max and people not being able to get their hands on them because there's just not enough of them out there at the moment. So it's not for a lack of demand, it seems.
Pretty quiet overall, though, as we said, as far as price action is concerned. The daily chart, however, still telling the story, hanging out right at the top end of the range.
Oh yeah, it's telling a good story. At least for now, everything is with the caveat because last I checked, when you see this, you're rounding into resistance on Apple, and it's not an insignificant price area as well. If you look at when it started to, you know, really accelerate, it was at 192, and then things sort of fell apart from there. That is exactly where we're turning again here today. So got my little picture-in-picture in there. You can see the nature of the rejection above 192 that's what stands out to me. When I see a level like this, like bust it out the way that Apple did, and then reject that, then find resistance right back at the previous resistance level at 192. Well, I don't want to get it complicated. I want to short 192 on Apple. It's just, I don't know, like that's like a pretty standard-ish play. Whether or not this market rallies this stock $1 to get to that price level, well, I don't have to trade it if it doesn't want to go up there. I think it has a chance. But if it doesn't get there, I don't necessarily want to put any trades on Apple. 190 on a day like today, I'm willing to, if you have a consolidation bottom off the opening range on a big major even dollar level, I'm generally speaking willing to take that trade on a holiday short day, pretty much every single time. So that 190 would stand out for those reasons alone. I am favoring a fade up here on Apple if it can press into that 192 though. That would be my ideal trade were it to get to that price. And that doesn't mean starting it short here at 190.70.
Yeah, what a bid there on Apple, Neil. We were kind of talking about that 174, which just seems like just yesterday. And let me just blow up this chart a little bit here. And we did a bit of a significant breakout. I don't know if you guys have observed a little bit of a multi-month downtrend we were having, and that 174, kind of a flat bottom. Sure, you violated a little bit. You do a nasty little lick grab down into 165s right before earnings, and then you take that earnings pressure, break out of this multi-month kind of trend, and we've only been pushing up off of that. So yeah, definitely looking for, again, 190 has been kind of an interesting area. The trend is looking like it's starting to bend. Again, that 200 kind of that all-time high roughly area here. And what I'm observing here is a little bit of a channel to the upside. So let's see whether or not we violate some of these lower ends here. But we know we've been talking about chart patterns as of late on the midday, and yeah, take a look at this chart pattern. Very, very beautiful multi-month breakout continuation.
All right, a few others that are moving around here. Xpeng, one of those. Nice look here, gap to the upside this morning, 5% at the highs, or it was actually more than 5% at the highs, 4.8 right now. More details coming out this morning about this tie-up with Volkswagen. If you remember going back a few months ago now, I guess it's been, they announced this deal with Volkswagen to bring Volkswagen into China, essentially, and now we're learning a little bit more about the platform that they're going to do together to sell in China.
Yeah, Brendo, they're going to use an older platform developed by Xpeng, and they're going to use it for a lower or a cheaper model that they're going to basically more mass produce and try to hit a bigger portion of the market. So we'll have to wait and see how they do. You know, we've been hearing a lot about this partnership made. Nothing really substantial coming out quite yet, but this may be the start of it.
1850, meanwhile, if you go out to the daily chart, a huge, monstrous level here, guys, for Xpeng.
Oh, 1850, baby. Like that. We'll get to that in a split second, but I just noticed this now. I don't know why it took me this long to notice, but it's like Nvidia China issues, Apple China sales, Xpeng, because I only saw the flag there over and over again. I'm like, oh, okay, 3 out of 5, and we're talking about Chinese markets. But the other thing is, like, Volkswagen is a German company. I don't know, I feel like you should almost, if you can't make the handshake like red, you can't, because you have the other one being red for China. I almost feel like that should be like yellow or black. But anyways, now I'm really nitpicking. Brendan basically just gave the whole game away on Xpeng with the 1850 level. I don't know what else to tell you, but this is 1850 on a daily chart. This is a world of resistance here. Now, the one thing I would say is since it failed through $20, now like that failure right here, I had a trend line on the bottom as well. It doesn't really matter, but you have a distinct slight trend line which was broken. Sorry, well, which is being broken. It's this gap, as a matter of fact, is what's kind of consolidating that break right now. So it's breaking this trend to the upside for the first time. It's not through the resistance zone. I don't think till it gets to like $20 is it completely through the resistance zone, but you're breaking a trend line and you have this 1850 up top here to take it out. This is, I think, the 1 or 2 names that I could look for I would look for a top end break at the open here, just because of where it is. I generally speaking, when these gap up, when the Chinese ADRs gap up, if they break the bottoms, if there's a dip buy, it's a real dip buy. And if it's going to go right away, it just goes right away. So I need to take out that top. The fact that you're even consolidating above here, that trend line, I like to go for the long. You have room to 19, you have room to 20. So I'm looking for that long, but it's got to take out the top of Xpeng.
Yeah, I think that gap is especially interesting for the long, just like you mentioned here. Look at what we kind of pushed back up above Tuesday right here. Some significant selling underneath the previous day's range. Weekly highs were made right here at that 1850. Tuesday comes in, solid selling comes in. Look at those volume bars, highest volume bars of the day. Comes in, breaks that 18, and just starts to support here on that 17. Coming in today, you have no price action, bidding back up into that 18, and then all of a sudden, pre-market levels hold above this significant kind of a selling point right there. This reference price is definitely interesting to me, just above this 1820 area. We've already made a little bit of a pre-market support. So yeah, going forward, out the open, a little bit of a dip buy into these areas might be interesting for that continuation move. Definitely a little bit of buying pressure maybe coming in as we've kind of gapped up above this significant selling the past couple of days.
All right, let's talk crypto. Yeah, nice move over the past couple of days here, back to these recent highs. 38,000 coming into play, a bit of a pullback right now, but as Mr. Noss was letting us know, some of the equities correlated also with a decent move here today.
Yeah, and ETH, Brendo, as well, 2,100, or trying to hold on to that right now. You know, I think it's been a big run-up in anticipation of the spot ETF. When it comes to fruition, we'll have to wait and see. You know, but it's been quite volatile in the move up. It hasn't been a steady state, move up where we have incrementally more amounts of money coming into the instrument, Brendo. So it's been a little volatile.
Yeah, any opportunities, guys, as far as crypto today?
Classic like flush, and then you buy them dips. Right?
So like Obi and I were just talking about the patterns on Bitcoin in particular here. And I know, like, if you were looking at a 3-minute, because what just happened is I was looking at the 3-minute, and you're like, oh, man, this is us at 38,000, and you haven't been able to hold on. You've touched it a few times, and you're sort of making lower highs off of that. But that's a 3-minute chart. When you go and look at, like, a 60, which trading views, it's weird. I'm very accustomed to 60 minutes and not 1 hour. Fair enough. But it doesn't really matter. You still have a very nice look on the hourly chart here, rejecting 38, but still in a good upward trend. What I want to see happen today, ideally, is this 37.6. Like, you just start this resistance level, which we just breached back in at 38,000, that holds today. So if this holds the open, I want to be looking for long trades, right? Like, it's an upward trend. I want to be looking long on the crypto names off that. So that leads me to a couple of things. We always talk about Coinbase. I want to get this out of the way. Like Michael said, you're at a very big resistance level, well, close to a resistance level on coin up at 115. 112 to 115 has generally been a short level, more or less. When you get, every time, you've only gotten there a couple of times in the last year. So each time it got there was very obviously a short trade. No question about that. If we get there today, once you're above 112, I'm starting to think about getting out of any longs and thinking about a short. But as a day trader, you still have a little bit of room, an itty-bitty amount of room to be able to get there, which does set up a couple of places. 107, and then this is like 108, 10 to 108 half. Give you a couple of places where if it holds on and Bitcoin wants to make that move, bouncing off key levels, I'd like it. But it is Mara, as we already mentioned, in that $11 level, which is probably a little bit more appealing in a lot of ways because it's $11. You close at 10.90. I think all you have to do is hold out that close, that previous close price somewhere in this range. Just has to bounce, get back above 11. That would present you with a bottom to be long from with an entry at 11. Potentially this breaks out, and I would look for that join. But I need to see Bitcoin hold that shelf we just looked at, 37.6. If that breaks down, then the long thesis on these names kind of goes out the window. And just before we go back over to Obi, it's 925 in here. You don't really see much of anything in terms of size on the imbalance locator this morning, and I wouldn't expect to. For now, you're just seeing nothing. One name above 500,000 shares. Fisker at 400,000 is a $2 stock. That's pretty much nothing, and Mullen's a penny stock. You'll see Palantir in here for 200,000 sell. That's probably the most significant name that you see on the imbalance locator right now, and it's a very, very small imbalance. I'll let you guys know at 928 if I see anything bigger, but for now, very, very light is expected on imbalances.
Yes, we were just talking about kind of that Bitcoin kind of a consolidation break. Like you can see what it's been doing. When we got back above that 30,000 right there, this range break, and then you break that range, and then you start to trend quite significantly here on the Bitcoin. So that's kind of what I was talking about with Neil. Every time it kind of comes back into this dominant trend after we've posted up and broken out of this 32,000. Look at these lows right here. Every time, sure, it's volatile, it's very, very choppy, but every time you get a significant sell-off back into the bottom of this trend, it gets bought right back up, and we're slowly kind of melting upwards on that. And you can see that kind of similar sentiment on a lot of these other crypto names. Like take a look at Coinbase right here on the daily, right? Kind of breaking out, pushing towards some of these highs. Looking left, that 114 is right there, and we've made only higher lows on the longer time frame. This is a daily chart, kind of pushing up into those levels. So again, muted day potential, but that overall long-term trend, let's see if some of these lows get bought up if we're going to sell off a little bit here, as we've started to do in the pre-market here on Coinbase.
So we got about 3 minutes till the open. I'll give you guys an update on those imbalances when it does come in. But just as a reminder, if you're tuning in, if you just tuned in now, it is a holiday short and Black Friday. The market will be closing at 1. Everything else sort of stays the same. We're opening at 9:30, and balances work exactly the same way as they always would. I'm looking at some Fisker at the open. They're gapped up about 7.5% here, and then we'll be talking certainly Nvidia, no questions asked. The market is dipping into 16,000 as we speak. I like this one. It's starting to go back into the upside a little bit here. So we kind of talked about the fade levels from what happened on Wednesday afternoon. I keep wanting, I just keep wanting to say yesterday when I look at the charts, but there's a day missing in between there. Yeah. Market wasn't open. So Wednesday's afternoon levels in here at about 489 to 490 in the afternoon was the short. And then we closed at 487, which provides you with another level there. So I'm looking for a bit of a fade there. You're seeing them start to pop up. 928 just hit, so you might have had some balances come through on the Nasdaq names. Not really. Nope. Yeah, nothing happened. Same names you saw there before, like Fisker, who cares, RLX, doesn't matter as well. AMD, another one worth watching. They just had a bit of a pop. I see their CompuCare team pointing that one out in the chat. But it's still downside. I think the bigger move just now was when Nvidia popped to 485. Do want to respect the fact that keep it on my daily chart. AMD has resistance at 125. I don't know if you get there today. It wasn't really on my note for that level because I didn't think we had much of a shot to get to the 125. But that's a big level there for AMD, which I'll be watching. Xpeng, 1850 like that for a breakout. If Apple gets to 192 like that for a fade. And ARM off the 60 even level if we can see that.
Yeah, I like that. I'm watching Google here as well. Kind of both Google and Amazon a bit of a quadunk right into the open there, a bit of a strong sell-off right here. Again, Google, a bit of a shake and bake price action here where you kind of wipe up, wipe back down, and we're well within that range. And that's selling coming right back into the open, maybe a potential front run. Similar thing happening here on Amazon, a little bit of a sell-off off of this range here, very, very tight on Friday. But yeah, going forward with only about 20 seconds left, let's see what these levels bring. I'm definitely going to be watching some of these levels. Again, going to stay patient as possible here.
Heyo.
But
Let's get
5,
4,
3, 2, and 1. We are open.
That's what it's all about. Adair not even messing around. She gets there. And if you saw the power move that just got made, those are quick feet. Those are quick feet. You be good off the line. Maybe the Bills could use you in the slot sometimes. But Nvidia is kind of trending. Okay, trending back in here. It just pulled back to 483. I was looking for a pop to be able to fade there. You're getting a bit of a break to the upside on Fisker. I like the 220 level for my support. It's already starting to break above that one. Let's try to respect it here. Do not want to jump in too far away from a good entry point. There's a size seller at 33 that I think could come into play for us. I still want to be long this stock for the squeeze potential. Xpeng, no breakout. You want to be patient at the open. Like, it's not moving yet, right? Like an 1850 break. I do not need to be in this trade until something actually happens. And then if you look at the crypto names, you're seeing a bit of a bounce play off that 11 on MAR. That's what I wanted to see. I just have to look over at my Binance chart. Do we hold on? No, we're right at that support. Like, we're right at that 37.6. If they don't bounce off 37.6, I don't want to be hitting the long in MAR here.
Yeah, so I'm watching NQs here. NQs just dropping right back into that 16 thou. Same thing with the ES here. Again, Google very, very heavy to the downside. Softy kind of selling off as well. Amazon as well. Kind of that 146. Let's see if we bounce off this 16 thou potential. Like I said, I'm going to stay a little patient. Again, I've been reflecting a lot more on, I keep repeating this, something that Neil has said, and it's really been resonating with how I need to be improving my trading. Is the statement you need to be able you need to be willing to miss the trade. You need to be willing to miss the trade to make the trade, and having that patience is very, very key. Again, I find myself whenever I'm anticipating kind of price action and levels and adding into a move that's going a little too far, I find myself paying for it more often than not. So again, I'm willing to miss a little bit of the bounce to see if we actually consolidate and actually turn off of some of these levels. And yeah, sure, 50 pennies here and there, I'm willing to miss more than that. But for the higher probability move, right? Let's see if this 146 holds. This 146 came right back in, and that 16 thou bounce happened real quick. And you got about 50 pennies right off of that 146 here on Amazon. Google kind of bouncing as well.
Here comes Nvidia.
Nvidia as well. Oh, yeah,
486, 46 already. If Nvidia's already at 46, ARM just took out 62. I'm going to get to ARM just took out the top, so it wicked the bottom at 61. Where's my fill? There we go. I just got into ARM, but I guess most people are probably going to be concerned with this is happening right now. So Nvidia making the break higher. You're seeing it get close to, but not quite into that 490 area that we do like. ARM, however, the big runner on Friday. It didn't get to 61. It wicked the bottom, so you have a failed break through the low, holding the initial support, and then breaking back up. I like the even dollar levels on ARM. I'm going to get some out here on the way up. You don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth today. Like, this is the kind of day where it's entirely possible that your initial move is going to provide you with your best opportunity. So if you get something that sets up and gives you a trade, I want profit into the 50, then I want it into 63, and then I can kind of take the money and run there. You want to make sure, like, I can like it to the long side. There's no chance I'm expecting it to do what it did on Friday, right? I don't think it could go to 65 again, but, sorry, on Wednesday. It could go to 65, but I'm not anticipating it goes to 65. I just got into Fisker. I'm in at 23. You should know the drill. I like the 20 level. That doesn't mean I'm holding it to $2 even. I'm not holding it to 210. I'm getting out if it breaks 220. It seems like tight risk because it is tight risk. There's no chance I'm going to hold this like 5% against me. I'll be out of that right quick. The market is absolutely booming right now. We're already at 490 in Nvidia.
Yeah,
we want to step in front of that freight train.
that bounce was absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, Sharif's food smelling
Can't do
great
that.
here.
I
right
told
off
you
the
about my
open.
time-restricted eating.
It's yeah. Again, wow. He's like blowing the. I guess
That's just impolite, Sharif.
the smell this way.
You should always bring enough to share.
I'm starting to grumble already. All right, so we got that crazy bounce, 16,000 back up to 60, 45, 60, 50, but a 50-point bounce there. And yeah, just going to be waiting for this information. Yes, sure, Amazon bounces more than $1.20 off of that bounce. Sure, potential for a quick scalp, but like I said today, I'm going to stay as patient as possible here. Softy, I got that 380 on watch as well. Let's see what we do with that level here. Let's take a look right here. Softy kind of holding, but holding the dip right here. Yesterday's or not Fridays, the last trading days, Wednesdays kind of levels getting bought right back up. We talked about that 375 and kind of pushing right back up into this 380. The 380 has knocked on the door a couple of times, but again, Neil and I were talking about this level in the pre-market. What's the probability of it breaking on a day like this where you can expect things to be a little muted, not a lot of people here at the party. Again, a little bit of a half day and holidays there. We are selling right back down off of that 147. So like I said, I might be waiting for a little bit more information to take a little bit more of a higher probability trade. Microsoft kind of underneath VWAP right there, actually above VWAP, sorry about that. Yeah, above VWAP, so a potential hold of VWAP right here, hold of 377. Initial dip right here is holding on top of that 377. Again, I'm going to be looking for direction here. If we stay a little choppy and churny, then I don't necessarily want to get involved. Something I want to note, over the past few days, we've had some very, very strong action right off the open, right? Some strong bullish action or strong bearish action, and we just rip up or we just quadunk right down off the open. And today, something to note is we're well within that range. We haven't really moved very far off the opening price. Sure, you drop down about 50 pennies, you pop back above about 50 pennies, and same thing with the NQ, 50 points up, 50 points down, but not really getting anywhere, a little bit muted. And I think we were talking about this, a little bit of a muted day. Yeah, you could have taken that quick scalp off that shake.
That's what you got to do
on the open. Is that what the move is here, Neil? You just got to take those quick moves and just be gone with it, or
if it's set up. Like if you have this, I'm already out of arm. I told you what I was going to be looking for on this trade. It's just if it gives you your setup, it fails the break at the bottom. It doesn't. It holds out in front of 61. It fail breaks the bottom, take out the high. That's a clear setup into the previous range. The second it wicked this high, and I'm like, okay, the second we get to that Friday lower high, trailing stop in under 63, like instantly, and I was out more or less instantly. You might have heard me say under my breath, that was fast. Like I had just put that trail in, so I get shares out here and I get shares out there, and it's like one and done right quick. Now Fisker, I'm going to give it another chance. This is a level I liked. I did get wicked out. It immediately regained 20 with a size bid at 20. So I got long at 21, right? So I saw a size bidder in there. Got long for less because I have to give it a little bit more. Like I'm giving it an extra, just giving it an extra shot. A lot of times, if you were trending down on a failed break, I wouldn't take it a second time. My way around, it's not a way around it. My way to mitigate that is just take a little bit less the second time through if I'm not as confident in the initial bounce. Xpeng, unfortunately, I wish I could tell you it was going to do the break. I mean, ARM gave you the breakout. Xpeng gave you a reason. Like I was saying, it either took out the top or not. I'm not going to sit there fighting this silly thing when these Chinese ADRs gap up and they want to do that dip buy nonsense, and I'm going to sit that one out. It never gave me the trade that I was looking for, but you are getting that flush in. Nvidia, I hate your guts sometimes. Where's my... Oh, that was so close. Yeah,
a little bit of a...
This is one of those, this is going to be a little frustrating today because I think I got missed by about maybe 10 cents there. And my order wasn't at 490. My order was at 489.55. So I was willing to take this in front of 490. It didn't, like I got no fill up there. Is what it is. You got to be able to move on. I'll cancel my order. There's no chance. If it goes back up there, it's just pulled back $5 off of 180. Off 490. If it gets back up there again in the next few minutes, I probably want to reassess and make another decision. But that was easy peasy off that 490. You just had to be willing to stand in front of it by a little bit. I was not, buy enough. Let's go on over to Brendo at the desk.
A little penny stock, guys, and former guest actually on this show. Versus, this is a Canadian software company, VS on the Nasdaq, taking out highs here on heavy volume as well. They had new equity investment from an equity capital partners coming in today. So a nice look. Heavy volume here for VS.
Yes, sir. Intel's also flying, by the way. Just very quickly, Intel's flying, and Apple is at 190.
Yeah, so we got a little bit of a drop on a lot of these names, especially Google. Google really coming in right here on this chart right here. So we did get a little bit of a long on top of in and around this 146.5 here on the Amazon as we kind of teeter in and around the bottom of this range here. But we got our risk in there. Let's see if this kind of move comes into fruition there, and but yeah, that 16,000 looking quite heavy there. But yeah, let's take a quick look at the Google here. So it does seem like Google is bringing us down real heavy here as no real relief. Kind of VWAP staying very heavy into this move on Google, and it seems like that 16,000 keeps knocking on the door there, Neil. Kind of a strong sell-off. Apple leading the way. That 190 coming right into test.
There's some buying here. You're talking about Apple. There's some buying here in the teens. I don't know if it's going to be enough though. Like I got in at 16. I let the buying come in first. So it bounced off of 190.05, like the actual lows at 05. It then bounced off that. Some buying stepped up in there in teens. I joined at 16 even. It can't even seem to get into the 20s though. So we'll give it some time. I don't know if this is going to end up holding up. It seems a little bit, but the market has bounced off 16,000. And when the market does this, bounce off 16,000 into previous lows, if I've taken a bounce play, I'm generally expecting it to be already working. So you're not really seeing that yet on Apple. So it's feeling a little bit relatively heavy. I have a stop in under that low of the day, and I want to protect myself with it. But I see everyone shouting about Palantir. Yeah, so Palantir is at an even dollar again. It's just not the one that you'd like if you're bullish because it's 19, not 20. 3% to the downside on Palantir. If you're looking for the next level in terms of support, well, you're going to have to look for a while. $18. I'm not saying it's going to $18, obviously. It's just when you pull the chart back. On that flat bottom break, I almost want to be a joiner somewhere to the short. I look at this level here at about 19. If it pops and gets like 19.25, 19.30, I almost think I want to fade it off of that previous low. So I'm always willing to join a trend if I can. In this particular case, I need a consolidation under that 19.30 level.
Yeah, so we got stopped out of that Amazon on that dip, but that as soon as it rebids right there, and look at that 16,000 rebid, kind of getting right back into that trade, looking for that bounce, but that's selling quite heavy there. That 190 I'm watching as well, pulled up Apple right here on the chart. So that 190 coming right in, no real size again at the level. Again, I'm not expecting too much from today, no real significant kind of size pulling up to the book, but the moves are definitely, seems like the moves are definitely there. A little bit of a heaviness on the open right there. That 190 bouncing right here, Neil, maybe a bit of a reserve happening as well as we just teeter in and around this 190, reclaiming that range on the NQ, kind of this pre-market range right here, just underneath our, what is it, 1630 to 1670, and we kind of dip by the lower end of that range, rip right back in to that, and Neil's saying Tesla broke out?
Well, breaking out.
Okay.
Breaking out. Trying to break that 30. Remember we were talking about this 36, 35, half 36 area? It's trying to take it out, so this is clearly the strong name. I'm gonna get stopped out in Apple. The way it looks like the market's trying to bounce and this isn't going, I mean, Apple's gonna take out that low almost certainly. But Tesla is challenging on higher lows to get through that high. It needs to get through 36.25, it looks like. The other name that's super strong, we were just talking about, like stupid ARM. I always think it's gonna make a pullback into VWAP when I get out of these trades, right? It does the dance and then it holds the high. So ARM is, again, very strong, almost a lot stronger than I was anticipating. This is going to happen, but it's one of those situations where I have a plan of action, and then when it works, I'm saying to myself, okay, well, the second trade, which I'm usually looking to make, I've anchored myself to getting a better entry price than my last exit. It's a bad way to approach it. You should always be able to take the next trade as it presents itself. And it showed along at 63, because I was trailed out underneath it. That's the only reason I didn't take it. So I'm disappointed that stock is just still going. There's me and Apple. Apple took out the bottom. This stock needs to be a short. Forget about it. 190 is gone. I wanted a short at 92. I said I'd take a defensive 190. I like that trade at 930 on a half day, but it's going to end up being a loser. My frustration is going to be not back into ARM. If it does give some kind of consolidation off 63, I want something trending on a day like today. So if I can catch a trend in ARM, second day in a row, then I'll go back over to that one. Fisker is still holding up pretty nicely. I do like what's going on over there at that 220 level, at least for now. But wow-a-wee-wa. The market, if the market breaks 16,000, like I have to have something to the south side. I don't know if I get a chance at 490 over there on Nvidia. The other name that could come into play, I see you in there, Dr. J. I got a Dr. J story. I literally met Dr. J outside of Sawgrass Mills Mall in Fort Lauderdale at like 10 o'clock on a weekday. It was like the weirdest thing ever. But this is, Microsoft just turned red, and this is a stair-step weak stock as well. If you break 16,000, you could flat bottom break it down here at 376. I don't know if it sets up yet, but shout out to you for noticing that. I think it's another one worth looking at to the downside. I just keep staring up at the ARM. Like, ARM just keeps on going here. Patient Neil, don't chase it, don't chase it, don't chase it.
Yeah, I gotta tell myself that as well. Don't really want to chase it, but that 190 looking quite heavy as we kind of teeter right back into that 16th thou. So I did get involved a little bit here on the short side on the Apple right here underneath that 190. But if we do bounce, I will definitely get out of this trade and look for the next one here. But that 16th thou coming in real hot.
No, it's hot in
Amazon
here,
that 146 as well.
don't-
Okay, we bid right back up into that 190, but still kind of struggling
It's
to
hot
kind of
in here,
move
aren't you?
right back above it. So that's definitely interesting. Continuing to stay heavy here. Again, we haven't even printed, or we just printed the first 15-minute candle here on a lot of these names, and a lot of these names showing straight reds to the downside there. Google especially, we talked about that, Google. But this 190 may be a little bit of a trouble area here. If we chop and churn, I might be a little too early to this trade, and if that 16th thou holds and we continue right back up as if nothing happened, that would be interesting. But the fact that we bid back below the low of this range right here on the NQ is very interesting to me, and we're kind of building into that 16th thou on a day where everything is selling off. Take a look at that, Amazon breaking through that 146. So it's a good thing we stopped out of that long. We try it once, we try it twice. It doesn't even work. So I don't even want to continue it for that 3-strike rule. But what's going on?
Nordstrom getting a pop over here. JWN, no specific news, but probably strong because of Black Friday happening today. We also had recent earnings, so keep an eye on JWN, up almost 4% right now, guys.
On that Nordstrom's, I shouted out Intel was moving, but I never showed you guys the chart. So this is Intel. Bad wick there. You can see 43.90, 44 is a big level on Intel, even dollars pretty much always are. But it broke out at 43.70, which is exactly where it is. So very quickly, when you break out a top pre-market high, you bounce back in. If we hold 16,000, 43.7 looks like a good level. I don't prefer this to ARM, however. That's the problem. I cannot look at 190 on Apple. I see you're already in it.
Yeah.
But I look at that level. If it can't break back above it, I don't see how it's not a short. The problem for me is that we're right at 16,000. So you could still be holding on the futures. Like if 16,000 holds on the futures, I'd hate to be trapped in the low of the day. You almost have to have a tight stop for something like that. Fisker is still pretty much going sideways. I did want to get to Coinbase because we did bounce off 37.6, and Coinbase is back through 110. So here's Coinbase. It's breaking back into the upside. I think the 110 is going to look pretty good. We could probably have an idea where I'm going to go, and that is we're back above 11 on Mara. So I'm jumping into Mara. Now, if your preference is Coinbase, fair enough. But I said if we reclaimed 11 and held that 37.6, I wanted to be in Mara as opposed to Coinbase. So I'm in here. I got a fill just now at 11. I'll risk about 11 cents. Obviously, there's going to be slippage involved. I'm not going to get out exactly at 99. Maybe you do if it breaks that level, but it's about 15 cents worth of risk. If it breaks the high of the day, I'm holding some through the high day break.
Yeah, so it seems like we are doing a little bit of a bounce here, just in and around that 190. Again, I don't expect it to be that clean, and I am a little bit early there for a potential short off of this 190. Again, going off of this NQ consolidation rejection here potentially. But yeah, if Apple kind of decides to bounce off of this level, this is also kind of a Tuesday low, not necessarily the week low here. Yeah, let's take a look at some of these levels as we're in this trade, and I can show you what I'm looking at here on Apple. So take a look at that kind of Monday lows right here. This is Monday lows right here at that 189.60, and then Tuesday lows right here at that 189.75, and we're holding above both of those levels for now. But if this momentum and this selling pressure is going to continue back down, I think we could very well kind of go a little bit red on the week here. Take a look at the weekly chart here on Apple. Very, very distinct, Neil. Take a look at this. As we're ending the week, this is a little bit of a muted kind of action there. Let me take VWAP off because it doesn't necessarily matter on the weekly. But take a look at that. Kind of a strong wick off that 193. 193, kind of a strong selling off of that area, and we're printing. I don't know what candle this is called right here, but it's definitely top wick and closing in and around, or testing that opening price of the week, and looking very, very, very weak to say on Apple as we sell off through this one.
It is definitely on the relatively weak side, but I'll tell you. See, sometimes I can use that key when we're actually trading something crypto related. Those are like little Bitcoins, by the way, if you haven't seen this show before. So here is Bitcoin. That is 37.6. This is an hourly chart, 60-minute chart. An hourly chart here where it's stair-stepping upside. I respect the fact that 38,000 has been resistance, but the trend is your friend till the end when it bends, is something I heard from a wise young Jedi that may be sitting next to me. So I took Mara. I'm going to probably look at Coinbase and see almost the exact same setup. You just got to trade the one you like. Got back above 11, got 11.11. It got to the high of the day, took some out. Now I'm holding the other half for another break through the top. You can probably guess where I think this is going, which is 11.5 bucks. If it gets to 12, I think I'm looking for another trade to get to the $12 level. It's a holiday shortened day. I think I want to respect the tight end ranges. Again, just sort of take the trades, get in, get out, make your money. Don't try to hit. You don't try to look for that move that's on a typical full day. Like, I'm always looking for like the higher percentage plays where I can sort of get in, get out, and take the money. Obviously, I acknowledge when it looks like this, okay, clearly I could have taken more out of ARM. But you got to be able to trade your own style. You guys see me. This is how I like to do it, especially off that open when you get all that crazy back and forth action. Speaking of crazy back and forth action, there's been a distinct lack of it off 220 on Fisker. Although it is making a small little round off here. I got in on the way down, which is generally speaking not the way you want to get into a dip buy, but it is now holding the 2020 level. So this is something I can look to build off of, maybe add to this long. I'd prefer to be adding it now either in the teens off of the clear support at 16, or let it break back, break this little channel that it's in, and then add to it on strength. But for now, I'm going to be very, very patient for a secondary move. ARM just pulled back for the first time. I was yelling out, and I didn't mean to be talking over Obi if you guys heard me, but Sharif was in ARM as well. Well, I mean, he was in it still, and it was a size order at 64. I'm like, size at 64, and now it's pulling back into 63. So ARM, if it holds out at 63, it could still be a nice little scalp trade to the long side there. For now, Mara looking pretty solid. Obviously, the Nvidia short, if you manage to get it, shout out to you. I could have had this one and got to 489.30. I was sitting at 55, missed it by 25 cents. But it's one thing to place an order there. Sometimes you see the weakness come near your level, you just want to hit the bid, right? You don't always have to use a passive order. I prefer using it in that situation and get swept up so I get a great price. But today, that one cost me. The other day, it worked really well on Microsoft, but sometimes you get top wick, other times you miss the trade.
Yeah, I gotta say, Neil, I cannot take credit for that statement. Again, it's been said by some of the greats. I think Jesse Livermore mentions it in his book, Reminiscence of a Stock Operator, and I think even before that, Ed Sequoia. Is that the name of Ed Sequoia? I think he was the one who did the.
I'd steal it.
The trend is your friend until it bends. The bend part, I think it was Ed Sequoia.
Oh, just take credit for it, Obi. You're the first person that said it on this show, the only live trading show out there.
I got to give credit where it's due, man. It's
Jesse Livermore ain't never traded on YouTube before. That's for damn sure. What?
Oh man.
I'm just saying. No, look, here's the thing. No, it's. Look, okay, obviously fine. Like, it's credit where credit is due. I think obviously you should give credit to the person that came up with it. All that said, in the context of day trading the way that we do, I think you're the first person that said it, which we do not say this enough. If you are going to fight the trend, then it has to be a very specific style of trade in which you do it, right? If you've watched. Everyone's like, oh, you're looking to short like a weak or a strong stock, or you're looking to go long a weak stock. It's because if you like support and resistance, you're waiting for it to get to a level that you were looking to trade off of. And sometimes that will mean you're going long a weak stock because it's in a major support. That's why you might be scalping off of that level to take the profit when it's there. Speaking of taking profit when it's there, I'm gonna hit this spike. Because in anticipation of what I'm really, really hoping is going to be a win by the Bills and a Kincaid spike or two, Mara just got through the highs. That's entirely unnecessary, Sharif. I don't understand. Like, your Cowboys won. It's not necessary for you to crap on my Bills, okay? Not today. Not today, Sharif. So there we go. I just got a break. It broke the high of the day. I got some out at 38. I can look to re-enter this trade. Maybe one more bounce in front of 11, and then we can take the money and run here. So we have a couple of good ones. Obviously, Apple didn't work out for me off that 190 level, but you can see this is pretty heavy. It only got 30 cents underneath. That's not a big flush out.
Yeah, no, it's not that.
Really. So, Apple, I don't know. I guess it's the first green candle in the 3-minute. Let's see what happens, because we've actually held 16,000 on the futures. This is why the only reason I'm not short Apple, this is a stair step down where I'd be looking to short the first bounce 10 times out of 10, or never 10 times out of 10, like 9 times out of 10, I should say. But it's the fact that we just bounced off 16,000. Like, that just feels like, okay, bounce off 16,000, regain the low, don't want to be trapped at the bottom here. If I'm shorting on a holiday shortened week or day, I'd want to be finding something that's going to give me a short off of resistance on the futures, or show us failing back underneath here, and then I can enter a short in a weak stock. So that's generally my favorite way to do it. Now, that could still happen. We could break back underneath the quarters, head back down to 16,000, and this ends up lower, and then we go for the short that way. There's lots of ways this can set up. I doubt we get Nvidia. Foul Territory, great name. Great name in the chat there. I love it. Disney is super strong.
Disney, okay.
How many times have we said that sentence in the last year? Spoiler alert, not very often.
No.
But, there's always a but. Disney is kicking you-know-what and taking names in the last little bit. Look at that triple bottom, break of a downward channel. If you can't draw a downward channel in this, you can draw like 10 of them. It's broken them all. And this consolidation break could be happening. It needs to get through 96. Spoiler alert, if this breaks 96, in my personal account, I'm offering at 101. The next resistance, I'm taking it. But 96 looks like a good breakout. Why not? If anything, it's already taking out Friday's.
Yeah.
I keep saying Friday. I'm totally thrown off by the fact that we were off yesterday. I keep referring to Wednesday as Friday, but it's already breaking that high. So this looks pretty juicy. I tend to want to see how it does at 96 to be able to join this move, but shout out to you for catching that one. Congratulations if you're in the long. I think this has a pretty good shot. Like, this is a strong name. I think you want to be long the stock as opposed to shorting it. But these futures are battling that previous resistance level. Going back over to Fisker, which is the second of my trades here. It's now above. VWAP doesn't matter, but it's holding that 220 level. I did stop out to get a wick bottom and then entered into it and gave it underneath the 15. It did not stop out. I'm looking for a place to add to this position before taking some out when it gets to 230. We'll see if I can add off 220. It might just have to start adding off of VWAP, though. Keep that in mind. And then ARM is starting to calm down here at 63. So it might be setting up for an entry. I'll give it one more push to the downside before I get back in.
Yeah, like I said, I think again, I'm gonna give this some more room to breathe. That 190 kind of a little bit muted. We are underneath VWAP right underneath this 190.20, 190.15-ish area. And yeah, we got involved a little bit too early there. But I'm definitely watching, like I said before, this consolidation range on the NQ that we're teetering around. We broke below it, and now we're just chopping. We're in between that 16th thou and the lower end of this range. And that second 15-minute candle has only about 30 seconds left to print here, Neil, as we're closely knocking on the door of 10 o'clock. And take a look at that. That 190, that selling that keeps on coming in and around that 190 is definitely interesting. I'm going to stay until it proves me otherwise. But before that, to Adara for the desk.
Oh, apparently not just
or
yet.
Not yet. Sorry.
False alarm. We will in just a matter of seconds. It's going to be 10 o'clock. We're going to get to happening now in just a second, as mentioned. Let me get back over to Apple there. That's okay. That's okay. No worries there, Fabian. Wow. Okay, I see some chats in. Fine. I just read the chat and there's some Dallas comments, which is. We'll get to that when things slow down a bit. This is the point where things are starting to move in here. So you're getting, and I know always on Apple here, but it just wicked 190 again. Look, I lost on the long. That's okay, fine. That's a short entry. Like that's a short entry for me 9 times out of 10. Right? Like it showed you the 190. Could have had the trade there. Definitely could have already been in it on the way up. But if you're going to show me a chance to risk 15 pennies on Apple and what has been a relatively weak name, I haven't been short anything, and this is one that I did want to give a shot. So I'm just going to throw my stop in there. I'm joining the party. Let's see if it can go. If it stops out, it's going to be really tight risk for me. Let's go to the desk. We're now ready for happening now.
We actually got some economic data at 9:45, so we'll just recap that one really quickly. S&P Global Composite PMI Flash came in exactly the same as the previous, 50.7, slightly higher than the forecast. S&P Global Manufacturing PMI Flash came slightly below the forecast here, and then we had S&P Global Services PMI Flash, which came in just slightly above the forecast, so a little bit mixed here, but generally pretty close to expectations. In terms of the market here, we're pretty flat. The Qs are just slightly negative as of right now. In terms of stocks that are moving, that are doing interesting things, we have Xpeng. This one is still interesting from pre-market. There was the news that Volkswagen, which XPEV had partnered with in July, is now actually having some new updates for Chinese EVs. And then we also have Novo Nordisk. Eli Lilly also trading higher on this news, but Novo Nordisk up almost 2% on news that they will be releasing Wegovy, their weight loss drug, in Japan starting in February. So keep an eye on this one for sure. Pretty nice movement right now. Brought to you by SearchTrader, where traders can get a funded trading account up to $1 million and keep up to 90% of the profits. The program has simple rules and no time limits. Go to searchtrader.com/TTV and use the promo code TTV for 10% off.
Yes, sir, everybody's looking to get a deal. Let us know. I feel like we should have, I mean, we already have one poll in there, but I almost feel like we should have a poll. Like, what is, like, are you like electronics? Like, what else do people buy outside of like electronics? Like, really? Like, maybe you want some big ticket items. You know, I'm looking for a coffee grinder, but anyways, that doesn't matter. Fisker, I'm putting an offer here at 28. Now, this should be for obvious reasons. This stock broke here at 29 right at the open. So if it did that wick, then I want at least one offer out in front to be able to take some profit. I am now back into ARM. So ARM just did this, little bit of a wipeout bottom. We'll see what happens. I'm not giving this to VWAP. Like, this just pulled back 80 cents, showed you like a 90 bottom in there. I take it back through 63. So I'm going to put up about 25 cents in here. If it loses, fair enough. Probably could have held on to the first long trade, did not, but that's okay. Audrian's art, Ford is popping. What is going on here? Ford is strong. Disney is strong.
Disney is strong. Coinbase.
What next? You're going to tell me Mullen is up 50%? Shout out to everyone that's hopefully not long Mullen. No, I'm obviously joking there, guys. But Ford, come to the daily chart, $10.65 on Ford. It's not there yet, but that looks like it's probably resistance. I don't know about you. That feels like resistance to me. Ford is a stock. If it moves from 1050 to 1065, you've just gotten 1.5%. Keep that in mind. It's already up 2.5% right now. I don't know if there's a story here because I did not see anything specifically about Ford. If we see something on the wire, I mean, up 2.5%, it could just be a bit of a relief rally. I have no idea. But strong move already to have gone 20 to 25 cents into some resistance. So shout out to anybody that has it. If I have a concern right now, it's the fact that we're not holding underneath 16.25 on the Nasdaq futures and the one short position. It was always a saying on the floor, going back a long time, like if everybody likes a specific trade and the market goes the other way, it's like especially bad. And I'm only saying that because I'm willing to bet you like 190 on Apple right now, week off the open, lower high, futures looking to stair step it down. It's like if it doesn't work, it's gonna really suck. Like obviously, it's looking like it's a great setup. It's following the market. It's relatively weak. It's off of a resistance level at 92 from the last couple of days. But all the more reason, like I'm going to get stopped out here and be 0 for 2 on Apple, and I don't think I'm going to have too big of a problem with it because I feel like that's a crowded trade to the south side, and probably why you're seeing some buying. I just saw trade forever. How did you miss Roku? I didn't see a reason to be looking at Roku, to be honest with you. So the fact that you miss a move at 9:30 in the first half an hour, like that's okay, but have you missed? If this stock gets going, it moves dollars, not cents. So I don't know. If this trends, it's got another $1.50. So I checked out $1 at least to previous highs. So there's still room. It could hold above 95. Get a secondary play, stair step it to the upside. It's only 10 o'clock. I think you've got one good salvo left. But the market's got to pick a direction here. If something isn't setting up at the exact price you want right now, I think you got to be almost staying away from it. Like I wanted an Nvidia short, but I mean, it's not giving me the short where I wanted. Like I can't even, like VWAP's not what I was looking for. I was looking up top at 490. That ship is more or less sailed. I feel like Apple's the one that just showed me an opportunity. ARM is okay. Fisker, I never got that fill. And as far as Mara goes, I think we get this 1150 on Mara. So 11 to 1150 feels like it's going to happen here on Mara. I got in at 1111. And if you happen to take Coinbase, like I said, I don't think it matters. If you liked 110 on Coinbase better, great. Look, it's an extra zero. It's the same thing. I think the percentage moves give you a little bit more in Mara, and it's just a little bit easier to manage your trade if you can find the setup in Mara as opposed to Coinbase. But you're still going to get a pretty good win here if you took Coinbase instead. Congratulations all.
In terms of liquidity, do you think that like it's Mara is a better choice or Coin for the trade there?
It depends on the day. I've seen days where I've looked at Riot and Mara and been like, oh, I don't want to trade that because it looks some days it's like algo heavy, like all of the liquidity is algos when I look at the level 2. And the only reason I say that
on Mara.
Yeah, on Mara, and
right.
I should explain what I mean by that because that's kind of a stupid thing to say without explaining it. So when you look at the level 2 here on Mara, and you look at when it just cleared a level, like see the amount that's going through. Like when it cleared that level, okay, a lot of it was deprints, but there was actual size going through there on the tape. Like there was real fills and real shares executing when it broke a level. Now there's other days where you'll see it float a couple of cents back and forth and you're not seeing those chunk prints. What that tells you is it's going through levels and almost everything is just quote stuffing and there's nobody there.
Yeah.
Right? So if there's nobody there, you don't want to be, like if you're getting in there and it's breaking through like every 5 cents it goes and nobody's actually trading those levels, that's not good. You want to be in the stock when there's actual fills happening because if that's not the case, what happens is you go to execute and realize, oh, when you're trying to punch that level, it's moving not because people are getting filled and it's breaking the level, it's because people are just algos are just pulling orders and that's how it's moving through and then 90% of it's just fluff and then you get trapped or you can't get liquidity when you try to punch out. So anyways, I try to avoid that. I've seen it before. It's obviously a lot better today. Hate your guts, ARM. I feel like this happens to me sometimes. I know, like it's interesting. Sharif just said the same thing, right? So second trade on ARM, like it's a setup I'll take a lot, but it's interesting. Like this exact same price, right? Like if I take this trade when it immediately presents itself like 30 minutes ago, that's the second move for $1. I take it here and I lose my 30 cents. You know, it is what it is. Like, it's going to happen. Yeah, and like, so basically what Sharif just said, lower high, flat bottom break, you can reverse short on something like that. I just preferred the short setup that we're in right now. Thank you very much, Obi.
Yeah, so I think I definitely agree. You don't want to get involved on tape where it's just pure algos. That's like super competitive. Being a human, like you're not gonna win. Let's keep it simple. Like,
Who told you I'm human?
You're not. Well, I'm just generally speaking there, Neil. But
all of these trading memories just fade away like tears in the rain.
Wow. I do not understand that reference, but
Really?
yes, the market is selling off a little bit here.
The single best monologue in movie history is from Blade Runner.
Oh, it's from Blade Runner. I've seen Blade Runner. The original or the new one?
If you've seen Blade Runner, and you don't, and I don't mean to be like, I'm not trying to be mean about it, but if you've seen Blade Runner, and you don't remember that line is the movie. That is the movie. If you've never seen it, it's absolutely brilliant. I would suggest if you're into sci-fi, you should also read the book, When Do Androids Dream of Electric Sheep. It's absolutely brilliant. But anyways, you guys know how I am. I'm a bit of a nerd, so my bad.
Nice. Yeah. So going back to it, you don't want to fight algos, right? We're just human. Neil, I don't know, to be determined, but you don't want to be fighting algos. It's a losing battle, right?
Yes.
It's very clear it's a losing battle. And if you watch tape long enough, you start to realize that this action is not human, right? At least that much is clear at times. Right, Neil? It's just like when it moves in a certain erratic fashion, or it's doing some sort of behavior, you clearly recognize that there are non-human traders on the book, and you definitely want to avoid that. If you can come up with strategies to kind of spoofy man the algos, you can call yourself Nav. You know, and that again, great story about messing with some of these algos in the past, and it has been done by some players before.
Okay, but you can't say, if you're talking about Nav, I say every single time this comes up, and you can look it up, but this is a guy that was spoofing on the futures and got scapegoated for the flash crash.
He definitely
I say it every single time.
100% got scapegoated.
If you read anything about it, and I always make a point to say this every time it gets talked about, there is zero, this guy did not cause the flash crash. Like there is no chance.
He's not the sole reason, but they found someone to blame.
They found someone to blame because you could basically tie in the timing of the movement. Anyways, you guys can find stories.
I'm sure he got some
want.
foreign accounts padded, but you know.
What? I missed it. That line was not in the script. Yeah, Rutger, he did come up with it. Like, it was literally the most iconic line in a fantastic movie, and maybe the best line in science fiction history was an ad lib by an actor. Like, when people say, "Oh, that person's ridiculously talented," like, that's amazing. We talk on air all day long, and like 9 times out of 10, like all the best stuff that I say, I've stolen from somebody. Because it's just like I have a good memory for it, and I'm like, oh, this is good to say here, that's good to say there. Like, I mean, it's amazing when some people can come up with stuff on the fly. I think that's a great talent. Go watch the movie though.
Yeah, I definitely will. I think I've seen the newer one more recently, but I don't really recall it too much. But yeah, I definitely gotta watch that. I did start watching Loki, as you mentioned.
Don't say a word. I haven't seen it.
But before that, let's pass it off to Dara at the big desk.
Yeah, I still haven't started it.
An update from SciSpark SPRC. It was just near high of days because of its new patented CBD enhanced solution for autism spectrum disorder. So keep an eye on this name. Lots of volume here. Big move up, almost 40% right now, guys.
So we are selling off a little bit there, just a tad little bit of a sell-off off of that 190. Kind of the futures kind of again staying underneath that pre-market consolidation range. Let's see where we go. We did violate some of these pre-market prices from earlier on in the week here on the Apple. Let me just show you guys what I'm talking about. Yeah, a little bit of a potential support area here. Kind of this this random 4 a.m. candle where you just rip right back up off of previous day's lows and then kind of bid right back up. And we've wiped all of that price action coming right back into this. So where does this previous range kind of come in? Right here, I see the support down at 189 there, Neil. So we're only about 60 pennies away from previous support, kind of just a level-to-level move. We talked about people not being on the tape today, and yeah, if there's nobody on the tape, and if there's nobody on the bid, where's the next stop? I'm looking left for the next support right here on top of that 189. Very, very distinct level here, but again, we have a couple of bus stops to kind of pass on the route down towards that level into 189. Look at this wick right here. I'm trying to figure out what price that is right there.
Did you say bus stops? I like that.
Yeah, 189.60, and we're kind of teetering on top of that. So yeah, a little bit of a bus stop en route, right? So these tickers are en route, and then every now and then you have support and resistance levels, consolidation levels, and you might stop by at the stop, pick up some passengers, leave some off, and continue the route. Right, so that's why I like
pun game is strong with this one.
I like it. I like to call it a bus stop.
Okay, so for anybody that doesn't know what's happening here and wondering why Obi is dropping puns every 2 seconds, it's because the last time Obi was on, we had a poll who has the better puns. Was it Adara or Obi? Now I voted for Adara that day. They both have fantastic. They do a great job with good puns.
I voted for Obi.
But I voted. I know you voted for yourself. So now he's basically demonstrating his skills. Okay, fine. Okay.
I mean, I wasn't.
That was fire.
That was. You just reminded me of that. I wasn't really trying, but I guess if it comes out, it comes out, right? It's just au natural.
Phrasing. I feel phrasing was an issue there. Although someone called me out on that on Twitter the other day. They're like, Neil, phrasing. What are you doing? Whenever, first of all, just to anybody that knows this. When like 4 times a year, and that's every single quarter during earnings season, when Dick's Sporting Goods reports, for one day, I'm just probably going to say a few things that shouldn't get said. Just know that it's all in good fun. I'm never actually trying to be rude or anything. But speaking of good fun, might be taking out this bottom on Fisker. You know what I'm actually doing here? So I took this reload in front of 20, right? So I had the long off this. And then I took the reload off at 20. I just got half of it out for a really tight stop, because if we're retesting the bottom on a day like today, if we're retesting the bottom, I want those shares at the bottom. Even if it's not about saving much, it's about saving when it makes sense to. So I'm still in it, but I don't think I want to add or shouldn't be adding unless it bounced off the 20 level I like, or if we get right back into that bottom. So just doing a little bit of housekeeping there. I'm not necessarily as optimistic as Obi on the short for Apple. When I looked left, I saw like 189.30 or so, just a previous level. And I think if we get to there, I'm just going to take it out. It's that kind of day. It's already 10:16. As a matter of fact, speaking of which, Mara Trail's about to go in. We're testing that 1150. So I liked a couple of early longs. ARM didn't really continue for a second trade. I suppose if you looked at the pre-market breakout level, you could have just been back in here on Mara, like at about 11:30 the price, and then you could have taken that second step up. I don't usually like to be all that aggressive on a day like today, but it would have paid off for you. But if we don't actually hold it, oh, never mind. Forget it. We just got to 48 there, so it's like, okay, I was about to say if we don't actually hold this move into 1150 and break it out, I would have put a trailing stop when we break it. Otherwise, I'm just taking it if we pull back from that price level. I tend to trade, like this is my style of trading. Again, it's sort of like a do you sort of thing. Look for the 11 to hold. If it held right away, great. It did not. It broke the bottom. It ended up holding the previous close, which was 1092. So it holds that level. Wait for it to regain 11, which is the higher low. Enter off that and take it to 1150. If it starts doing some kind of a secondary move off VWAP, then we can trade that one again. But as usual, I'm more than willing to take the money and run. And what is the tap on SPRC? So I see it's halted at 1141, not the time, the price. And the tap is 1214. So the theoretical auction price is 12. What the heck is going on here, first of all, in this stock? So 1214, which is off the chart here, was just at $9. Oh, it's this one. Oh my God, it's this one. All right. So, okay, so if you see this chart, like where do you think it squeezes? It's a bit based on the wicks. If you didn't see this today, like look at this. Reverse split, higher lows into wick tops like through 8 to 9, and then it breaks out, yeah, well, maybe, just maybe, that's not a bad breakout. You probably have to take yesterday's high at 940. I'm willing to guess somebody in here is, I'm willing to bet you any money, somebody in here either did the first long or took the long when it came back through 950. That's just a guess for me, because we have a few traders in the chat that I know look at these types of names. And if you look at these types of names, you should be like, this is a stock. If you trade these stocks, like your chance is to get that long off the 9 or maybe the 10. I think 950 was a good entry the second time through with a 9 stop. But obviously, I'm not in that thing. Wish I could tell you I was. That's nasty. I wouldn't get trapped. It's not a day where I would want to get trapped buying highs, though. Definitely not. Remember, the market closes early today. You do not want to get trapped buying highs on a parabolic mover. Definitely not the day for that, and you got to hold over the weekend if you're swinging it. That's not my cup of tea.
How do you feel about
You're muted.
how do you
Xpeng
feel?
broke.
How do you feel about shorting parabolics, Neil? I know that you've talked about kind of trading small caps before, small to mid caps before, and I think I don't know if you've heard of that strategy in the past.
Well,
shorting into parabolics.
Look, I've obviously done it before. Anybody who has day traded a long time, at some point you've looked at some of those moves. By the way, okay, so Xpeng broke the high of the day. I got to get to this, and then I'll finish that thought. So Xpeng broke the high of the day. I think at this time, I do want a tight stop. I know I wanted to be in this one. At this time of day, I might have a relatively tight stop. It could pull all the way back into VWAP, and the buying is not exactly flying through the roof here. But the reason for 1850 is this on the daily. That is 19. I take at least half out, if not more. Actually, no, more on the way to 19 even. Just because of the time of day. It's 10:20, but you got to think like it's lunchtime in some way. So I'm not thinking we get to like 1950. Yeah, like we're kind of halfway there, but hopefully we're not living on a prayer. So back to,
Nice.
That's a great song. Everybody knows that one. But the shorting parabolic movers, I like the notion of it, and I've done it in the past. You have to be super patient and super disciplined, and to me, always willing to make top wick. Right? If you're shorting SPRC and you're looking for that move, the pullback in, understand it can be gigantic, right? Like if this opens at 1250, makes a run to like $14 even, and you get a fail break at 14, it could be back at 10. You get a $4 winner. However, if I take that trade, I'm usually short at 1380, and my stop is at like 14.2. And if you're not willing to make that top wick for like 30 or 40 cents,
Yeah.
then maybe you're willing to hold to 15. Then to me, that you're a hedge fund at that point that can hold it overnight and be like, whatever, I don't care. I can hold it as long as I want, and it's going to come back in. A day trader isn't like that. You don't usually have that kind of an account. If you do, great, then it's a viable strategy for you. It's like the roulette strategy. You can just double down forever because you can hold that as long as it takes for it to come back in.
You know, with a high probability, a lot of these names in a few weeks they just come right back in. But when you don't,
HKD.
Yes, of course.
But HKD.
Of course.
HKD probably destroyed a lot of people that were not willing to stop out at the
big
high.
boys as well. Right?
Speaking of small caps, let's get an update on them with Adaira at the desk.
SPRC definitely the biggest runner of the day right now. SPRC, at least for small caps, sorry. SPRC up almost 60% right now off of that patented CBD solution for autism spectrum disorder news. Keep an eye on that one. As well, we have Cap Division up almost 23%, pulling back a little bit right now. No news on this one right now. They were running as well on Wednesday, so keep an eye on both of these names heading into the rest of the day, guys.
So Obi and I were just talking about like what was the greatest squeeze. Now, understandably, HKD got to $2,500. So you can look at that and say, oh, the percentage move on HKD was insane. Like that's the biggest one. But if you think about what AMC did on its squeeze and GME, and then this year Carvana, like the amount of money that got squirrels in the move is definitely bigger in some of those other names. HKD was impressive. It's just that probably ruined a few day traders. Oh boy. That's a guess. I don't know that for a fact, but. You know, like there's a few that I've seen that actually tweet honestly about the trades that they make. One in particular, I don't want to name any names, but like one in particular that I know a lot of people probably look at, and they were candid about how nasty that got, and that's why I'm always willing to make a top wick or a bottom wick. So my stop, this is what you don't want to see when you take a breakout trade. Ideally, is it starts to get going, reclaims the high, and is instantly met with sellers to take us back underneath 1850. So I might get one of those, it runs the stop and then goes, but if it does that at 1023, I'm willing to take that medicine. We'll hang on to Apple, but Andrew Chow, let's get the Palantir for you. And because, I mean, we're kind of here right now. The problem with Palantir, if it did that same short, like if it was here doing this up down as we're stair stepping underneath 16,000, I'd probably already be in it.
Oh boy.
But it's this tricky bloody 16,000 on the Nasdaq. Like I told myself I do not want to be entering short positions as we're literally bouncing off that level, and we just wicked underneath it and then reclaimed it. If there continues to be buyers off this level, I don't want to be forcing the trade. This is the level, the area I want to be short. So I'm kind of talking myself in and out of that trade. And if you're talking yourself in and out of a trade, then it's not really setting up for you.
Yeah,
That's the way I want to go. You know, you don't have to force the trade. It's been a good morning. ARM was good. Mara was solid. Those two have been kind of holding fort. Apple looks like I'll at least get back what we lost on the first long trade. But yeah, forcing anything doesn't make any sense. There's a couple of missed trade opportunities today. One of them obviously is going to be Nvidia. It doesn't mean I'm going to chase it to the downside. You can't get it all. You're never going to. But that was a certain miss. I'm looking for that pop and fade in Nvidia and not getting it. John Womack, why not go long there? I never believe it's enough to just say I'm going long because I wouldn't short the stock under these circumstances, right? Because if you do that, then you're kind of able to find a trade every chart you pull up. And every trade should have an edge. And that edge should mean this is the reason I'm doing it and the reason why it works for me, that setup. And then on top of that, you know exactly where I'm getting out and how I'm going to enter the trade, where my targets, all that good stuff. You might only have all that lined up in one direction and it never sets up. It just doesn't mean you have a trade in the other direction. Palantir could go up from here. And it would be right for me not to short it, but it doesn't mean I have a long setup that I like. You almost have to make that distinction because it's really easy to say, oh, this stock I believe will go up, and then just take every trade. You know, it gets you in a bit of trouble. Reliable Rudy, you want the tap again on SPRC? It's not open yet? Oh, it must be a 10-minute halt. So 1232 is the new theoretical auction price on SPRC. It looks like it'll open in about 30 seconds or so. 10-minute halt, which just means there's not a lot of liquidity on this name, which not telling you anything you don't already know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you there on that statement. When I start giving myself like excuses or trying to come up with explanations, that's a good indicator that I might be either in the wrong mindset, whether or not I'm in the right position or not. Clearly, the management of that position is going to be skewed, and I think I've been picking up on that a little bit more as of late. If I'm like I'm adding stuff to the plan, or I'm trying to bring new things into the plan, and moving my stops, moving my take profits, or whatever it is. Definitely, there could be something, something wrong with that here. And take a look at this, Neil. We broke back below that 189.50 as we were knocking on the door of that 16th thou. On the Apple right there, here comes the 189.30s, and yeah, I was just going to mention Google quite heavy there as well, kind of maybe potentially bringing in the market. Amazon, oh boy, we tried the long twice, and I was like, oh yeah, this is not going to work here. I'm kind of forcing it. I realize that, kind of stopping those dominoes from falling even further and waiting for if I am going to have a little bit of a strong long bias, which I did. I stopped out twice, and I'm like, all right, let me see. It proved to me that the bids are actually there, that that bidders actually want to hold above this 146, maybe this 146.5, and they weren't really there. So I'm patiently waiting for those bids to kind of come back in. Sure, I can use that same kind of thesis or whatever, that outlook to get short. But as of right now, like I said, I don't want to get too cheeky with it. If this bid is not really gonna be there, and we're gonna continue to have the selling pressure to the downside as that 16th thou breaks and continues further down, and as Google and as Amazon, Softy, Nvidia, Meta, and Apple break back to the downside, yeah, definitely no real bid showing up there. I do have a little bit of a support level in and around that 145, and we're only about 40 pennies there. So I'm patiently waiting for that 145 to potentially come in. Again, psychological level as well, kind of a 145 level. And if you look left on the chart, it has a little bit of a significance as it's acted as a support and as a resistance in the past as well as in the near past as well. Yeah, in the near past as well. So let's see if that level comes right in. The selling is quite heavy. We tested the longs out the open. Didn't really hold. A little bit of a looking like it was selling the long. I'll admit it was selling the long. I was sold. I don't like getting sold to, and I started realizing that, okay, well, clearly you're being sold on the long idea. There's no real bid here, and we've clearly come right back in 147 to 145 half, about a 2 point flush on the Amazon. Haven't really fully hit one ATR yet, though.
I said this to Sean the other day, because Sean, remember, I was about to say Friday again. On Wednesday, you guys remember Nvidia, right? And it was like the same level that he was short. If you're watching, it was the 03 level. And then like it ran the stops at 03, and then it came right back in. So you have like an exit point where it's like, oh man, like that exit point sucked. But your level was dead right. So if you go back to Obi's chart for a quick second, can you full screen the Amazon, that same one, the middle one?
Amazon?
Yeah, Amazon right there. So like you see where you're exiting that long?
Yes. Good reason to sell.
The exact like you basically are making a decision at the perfect place to have made a decision, because clearly when you see it rejects that same price before, that is the key level on the stock, right? So you're making the decision at the place where you need to be making a decision, and then you're making the right decision. You're getting out of the trade. You're believing it's the other direction at that particular point. So that is the literal example of a losing trade that is not necessarily a bad trade. There's a big difference, right? Like you were long in front of what clearly was a key price level, as evidenced by what happened after the fact. The only thing, when I look back at that, I always ask myself, did I have a reason that I could have reversed that trade? Like,
yeah,
that's it. Like that's
reason enough right here, right, Neil? Like when it comes
so.
back in and it shows you that it doesn't want this level, I should be getting back here and being like, okay.
Yes,
I talk about like, being like water, not having strong biases either way. And yeah,
okay,
this is a prime example. Yeah, of course.
Okay, that one's Bruce Lee.
I gotta give credit where it's due.
You can steal from Jesse Livermore all you want, as far as I'm concerned, but like I mean, Bruce Lee, that's a bit different.
No, there's that little snippet. I think I forget who the interview is with when he's explaining that philosophy. But there's like a 3-4 minute clip. But the actual interview is about half an hour. Beautiful interview where he's explaining his philosophy of being like water. But yeah, this is a prime example of like, okay, sure, you have a long bias and you found a strong reason to sell. You tried the longs, but you found a strong reason to sell. And when that price comes right back in, it continues to be a strong reason to sell. So there's two things you can do. You can get out of your long, you can wait, you can see this price action, you can observe it and do nothing like I did, or you can be like, well, that was a strong reason to sell. These prices are showing me that this is a selling area. I want to get involved potentially for a continuation move because this is a good reason to sell. And I think I definitely got to get better at that. Again, going back to the philosophy of staying like water, kind of going with the flow and respecting the flow, not really getting too cheeky, not getting too strongly biased one way or another.
Oh, it's okay to be cheeky sometimes.
Yeah, sure, but like it's also about it's a balance, right? It's a balance of respecting the tape, listening to the chart, listening to the tape, and really being in tune with the flow.
Before we go to that, a couple of things here. One, we're gonna get to crypto in a second, but you talked about respecting the tape. So remember I said like I like that it was about 189.30 on Apple. It just tagged it.
Yep.
I'm about to get trailed out of Apple.
I covered a good
as a matter of
amount
fact,
because of that reason.
I'm not even going to wait for it. I was about to put a trailing stop in. I'm not waiting for it. I'm just punching out. If it saves myself 2 cents, it doesn't really matter. It probably would have run the stop anyways. But 189.3, I think I set it without showing a 15-minute chart, mostly because it has all these wicks on it. But it is what it is. It is what it is. So if you go right back into it, this is really hard to see. Okay, suffice to say that this close, going back to the 17th, was a Friday, and then we start the week off at the opening range. Like that move off of the previous close to the downside. That's why I like the quarter to 30 area. That's where it bounced. I'm getting the you-know-what out of Dodge on that move. Obviously, I lose on the long the first time through. All you can do is make it back. Why Brothers United? I took the Apple long there. Oh, great. Hey, congratulations. Congratulations. At the 30 level, that's pretty good. Yeah, because, I mean, look, if you're looking to scalp trade this, there's been opportunities to do it. It's just, like, it's a little bit random. Like, it's the first place where it bounced from, like, oh, that's a good level that it bounced off of. Just some housekeeping. It's 10:30. We get a, I don't remember if I heard something in my ear, but anyways, it doesn't matter. Yeah, okay, that's right. We are going to crypto. But I wanted to update. Xpeng's a little heavy here. It could not break the high. I took some out. I have a tight stop still, but this is really not flying. At this time of day, the more it runs the high without going, I'm just going to start trimming the position. This should work a lot faster than it's working. Let's go to the desk for the crypto update with Adair.
Lots of crypto stocks trading higher on good volume this morning as BTC trades well above 38,000, including BITO on the Amex here. We actually recently hit 52-week highs on this one earlier today, up about 2% right now. Keep an eye on this name. In terms of Bitcoin itself, yeah, we are very much up on the day. Here's the daily candle. Lots of strength here, well above that 38,000 right now, at about 38,250, up about 3% right now. Ethereum also higher, above that 2,100 level right now, up about 3.5%. Most of these crypto names trading positive on the day, around the same amount, up to 3% right now, guys.
We'll finish that. We're just talking about some execution, how you execute on days like today when it gets a little bit slower, especially at this time of day. But if you're looking at what's going on in crypto, look, as mentioned just now, it obviously is a strong day. I mean, you've seen that for 38,000 get taken out. Generally speaking, I do want to be a joiner back in tomorrow. Now, it gave one pullback into VWAP. That was where after I got out, it did not give another. I still think you could get a stair step up. I want a pretty clear entry if I'm taking something in the last 90 minutes of the day. Oh, sorry, 2.5 hours of the day here. Then I want it to be a very good setup. Coinbase, on the other hand, look, if you're in coin, they're both giving you a very similar move here. But Coinbase is the one, and Michael even said this. Michael Noss from Trade Idea, shout out to him. Like, you're getting to resistance on coin. Like, that's the differentiator for me. Like, Mara is not running into big resistance, and it is happening here on Coinbase. So I'm not automatically going to short a 115. Ideally, the way I'd want this to play out is a false break of this high. This is a 114.50 on the daily. I want it to run that stop higher, maybe even press past 115 and then fail that level. I'm not standing in front of any freight trains at 10:35 on a half day. Like, it either gives me the perfect entry, which is trapping longs above it, where then my exit liquidity on the short is other people getting stopped out on the long they just took, right? Like, that's what I want. Not I have predicted it's going to fall from here, and I need to just flat out be right. I don't want to be right in that trade. I just want to have somebody that's wrong that gets me a win, right? So it's kind of a different way to look at trading where I think it can fall back off of this level, but I'm not just going to sit there saying this is going to happen. I need to see something set up so that I can benefit from there being something right about that level. Hopefully that makes some sense to everybody. But I want a false break of that higher. I'm not taking it. I'm still in Xpeng. It's not doing much. Apple looks like it was still a good exit there. You guys let us know if we're missing trading anything. I see DTD mentioning a firm there. We can look at a firm for sure. I don't know how active I'm going to be unless I see some really, really good setups here. So a firm. What? What's so funny? Okay. These guys are like, all of a sudden you start chuckling. I'm like, did I just say something stupid?
No.
All I said is a firm. A firm is up 2.5%. I don't know if there's a catalyst for this. Maybe people are using more buy now, pay later on Black Friday. We wouldn't know that for another week. But this is trying to break out on the daily. Just watch out for that 27 level. It's a big, big level on the daily chart for a firm. It's got a lot of room to run before it gets there. So shout out to anybody that might be long this break at 26. That's a good one. Power up to whoever is long. I mean, usually somebody's long this. If I looked at this chart this morning, I would have been trying to long there. Like, that's just as good, if not better, than this Xpeng breakout, which is running all of like 5 or 6 cents in the money for me at this point.
Coinbase knocking on the door of 15 there, Neil. That might be something. I don't know if there's size sitting on the book there, but let me just pull that up. That 115 on coin is traded on the NQ, not the NY. Let's see. Yeah, no size. Oh, actually, 250 lots right there. Here, let me pull it up for you guys right here. Boom. All right, so 250 lots right at that 115. Not really going to interact with it right now. I'm still in this Apple short, and yeah, Neil, that 130, that 189.30 area, we're just holding above that. So very nice level there. Definitely some reasons to buy showing up here. I'm looking at some reserves here happening in the 189.40s and 30s, but again, this selling pressure quite hard, and we're still below that that 16,000. Take a look at that 115 straight through, blast through, gives you 30 pennies almost instantly. Now there's size chasing on the bid. Did you see that 300 lots right there kind of come in on the bid? Oh wow, yeah. So maybe some shorts getting a little out there on top of that 115 on the bid with 300 lots just in the live market on top. Not really, maybe a long chase, but regardless, decent reason to buy there on top of that 115, Neil. And the market kind of continues to come right back in. I did miss that 115 break. I was looking to kind of play that break, but like we said, I'll stay a little bit patient. No real rush here. Sure, if you got the long off the open here, coin has been absolutely beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Look at that pre-market break right here. Pre-market level is 111.5, kind of giving you about almost 2.5 points off of that level there on Coinbase. Again, on the run because of Bitcoin, kind of in play catalyst right there. But the NQs still kind of coming in very heavy on the day here. Still watching this Apple, kind of letting this trade kind of marinate there. What's going on?
No, but this is exactly why I didn't want the short that stands in front of the level. It's like it's exactly this. Like it just held 115 on the way back. Like if you're shorting in front of that level, like either you're stopped out with a tight stop, or you're basically, you're probably feeling a little bit right now. You're under a little bit of pressure. Whereas if you waited for that initial immediate fail break, which clearly didn't happen, then you're just chilling out. So I'm just chilling out right now, which is a better place to be than nervous in a short, last I checked. I mean, to each your own. Like, there's some people that love thrill seeking that would love to be sitting in a short at 115 right now, because that just gets the juices flowing. I've been there before. Like, don't get me wrong.
I'll be honest, I wouldn't mind it, like a failed break at 115.
Oh,
that's not
for
a bad
sure. But
idea.
there are traders that like that. Like just being in that one, like against you, like you get like that rush, especially when you're like, oh, you believe you're right in a situation like that.
I am guilty of this at times, and I have to remove this from my trading. I'll be honest.
There's been a couple times.
habit.
We're gonna go to sector watch, but there's been a couple times like I was trading a penny stock like way back in the day, and like there was an indicator that was basically, it was a market maker on a penny stock that I knew. This guy shows up and I'm good, and it was like I was just layering into it. And I was all in, but I was feeling good. I'm like, it was against me, but I'm like, I was feeling really good. Like it was my best setup in that quarter. So like it was, you shouldn't have felt good about the trade if you were in it. If you saw it, you wouldn't feel good about it. It ended up working out, but I shouldn't have been as calm as I was. Let's get to sector watch with Adara, because we just took 16,000. I want to know what's pumping this market back above.
I would say it does not look like the tech services or electronic tech sectors are what's bumping the market right now. A lot of the mega caps in these sectors are lower right now, including Nvidia on the China chip delay news, and Apple also with news coming out of China, basically that their iPhone sales for Singles Day did see a decline year over year. Adobe also down as well right now, so keep an eye on those tech-related sectors. Pretty mixed to negative as of right now. Finance, pretty positive. We do have some positivity in health technology as well, with Eli Lilly positive on the day, amidst Novo Nordisk launching its weight loss drug in Japan. So keep an eye on the weight loss drug arena and health tech in general. We also have lots of strength in energy minerals as oil prices see a surge to the upside. UNH up right now. We have some mixed producer manufacturing, lots of different sectors to keep an eye on. Also keep an eye on retail trade as we do have Black Friday going on today. Amazon down right now though, guys.
Catch people offside.
That's a
right?
Nice outfit, Adara. And the kicks too. All about the kicks. My kick game is weak. Katina's got I call Sean Katina because we've known each other for a while, and all the high school buddies call him Katina. There you go. But Sean's got he's more the kick game than I am. But a couple of things in here for you. We just took that 16,000 back to the upside, so it's time to ring a few Reggies here and do this, because it's been a pretty bearish overall market. But there's been some long plays out there. Xpeng, the 1850 break, just gave me 1870s. So, okay, like I gave you the reasons why an early take that I normally wouldn't have done. I did trim 20% here because it didn't feel like this wick right in there. When it presented me with the high of the day again, like, okay, let's just take some out there because I'm not feeling this is going as fast as I wanted. Obviously, it's not the ideal decision because it ended up working, so I could have held some for more. But you make a judgment call like that because I feel it could be reversing and I want to lose less if it breaks that low. Again, that's just the reasoning behind the trade. Fisker, at this point, looks like a gigantic waste of time. At this, like if I get 28s now, like that's probably it. Like I should be just shooting for, I should just be shooting for the 5 cents because this is not really, it's only showing you like this very, very tiny range when I'm expecting a squeeze type move. I don't think I'm getting a squeeze type move. So I need to change the strategy there. You want the bigger moves, fine, fair enough. It might just not be on this day. Ash is, great name. Ash is asking about iRobot, long or short. There's a pun I should be making there. Just given, like really? Ash, if you've watched Alien, you know where I'm going with this, is asking about iRobot. So what's going on with iRobot is the European regulators have given a temporary approval, I believe, for the deal, but you still have the US regulators, the FTC, which have not approved this. So the new price was, I think, $51.75 in cash. This was trading yesterday when you had both regions not looking to support it at a huge, huge spread. So it was down at like 30 bucks. So now it's cut that in half because you have one of the major regulators which is saying yes, you still have to get US regulation there. As far as trading it, when this is happening, if you saw me when I was trading like an ATVI or something along those lines, I generally look, okay, well 38 just held, you have resistance to 39, it's VWAP, maybe you start trading off of 39, but this is a different day. It's already 10:45. I don't know if I'm going to be aggressive trading something like this at this time. Let's go to the desk with Adara.
Update on cap division. CAPT mentioned earlier in small cap. Still no news on this one, but we just reached a new lifetime high on significant volume. Keep an eye on this name, guys.
Division. Captain Upside is what that stock is today. Nothing? Yeah. We have a thing for this. See, we actually have something for that if it'll go fast enough. That was terrible. That was horror awful. It was like horrible and awful as a pun at the same time. That I stole from Shaquille O'Neal. Hi, I'm Neil. I steal things from other people who say funny stuff, and then I say it back to you.
If you're enjoying this video, please take a second and hit the like and subscribe on this channel. And never forget, do not put pineapple
Bang, bang.
on pizza.
Nice.
That was good, Sharif. You got me, bro. You got me.
Executions.
That was good because the best part is you have to hit that when there's just no chance I was expecting it. I'm like, okay, the camera's on me. I get a little bit of a run here right now, and that's what's up, Sharif. Give the viewers what you always have to give viewers what they want. First of all, thank everybody for tuning in. And if you're enjoying the show, do hit that like and subscribe. Like, this is the kind of day, on a holiday shortened day. You've heard Sean say this. I've said this before as well. A lot of traders are like, whatever. I'm going to take it off. Yes, you might not get the same kind of volume, but the types of trading opportunities that work, when they work, they can work really, really clean, especially off that open. And if you have some setups to give you that open kind of trade, like I'm going to look at ARM here, like it's just that one initial fail bottom break and then takes out the top. Now, of course, maybe didn't need to have the secondary trade in there. That's what you're going to be looking for. Nvidia gave you, if you're looking for the pop and fade trade, you had that one gigantic shot to short off of afternoon resistance on Wednesday, right? Boom. Like, how clean is that to that high? You might not get as many opportunities, but the ones that are there on this type of day tend to be much more clean because you have a different type of liquidity. There's a few less traders out there. That makes it a little bit easier to get those types of moves. It does require a lot of patience. Copper Creek, shout out to you. Roblox is pumping, but I do not want to forget this. Let's get to the super chat. Nick Dubs, I'll get to Roblox for sure. I've been sticking with my convictions on trades on swings, selling at losses for them to only bounce for what would be winners, i.e. Disney. Any suggestions? So, well, in the first thing, the thing I don't know about what you're saying here, Nick, is if you're selling at losses, but are you selling at a level that was your planned out? And if the answer is I'm selling at a level that was my planned out, but that's ending up being wrong, and then it's holding a little bit deeper, and then my trade is right later. Well, you're swing trading. So generally speaking, if I find that that's happening to me, it's an indication that I need to have a wider stop, which means I need to take less shares. So if you're if you're getting stopped out, I'm going to make up a trade here. If you're taking, say, this is an 86 break, and you're looking at this consolidation, and those are bad wicks in there, but you're looking at this consolidation to go long, or taking this secondary break and getting shaken out of it. What you need to do is size down and have a bit of a wider range area so you can enjoy that trend. So, like if you're risking 1%. Then sometimes you need to risk 2% on your swing and take half the shares. Like it just is an example. I'm making up those kinds of numbers. Generally speaking, if you're directionally right on your entry points and trend, but you're never able to hold it, if you're following your rules, it means the thing that's right is your ability to pick the direction and the trend, and the thing that is wrong is where to get out. So if you need to give a wider stop for less size, right? But always hold on. You got to have a stop. The answer to that is not to just hold through your stop. Hopefully you don't want to do that. So it's Disney's doing really well today. It broke that 96. It's up 1.5%. Congratulations to you. Just remember, you want to figure out what is right about your strategy and what is wrong about your strategy. Do more of what is right, and then figure out a way past what is wrong. So just a couple more things there. Hopefully that makes sense to you. It was Roblox I wanted to get to next. We have 10 minutes until we get to the midday. For those that are wondering, because it's a half day today and the market's going to close at 1 o'clock, Obi and I are going to be back at noon. So we'll do the midday segment. You're going to go to the other stream for an hour with Adair and Sharif, and then we'll come back doing the close as regular, but it'll only be an hour because the markets are closing at 1 o'clock today. Roblox, just to quickly get to that, I know there was a question about Roblox, so I wanted to cover it. This is generally speaking, this is one of the setups that I really, really like for a breakout long. It's a little bit late in the day to want to take a breakout at the high. But Roblox made a bottom the other day. You make a higher low, and then you have a wipeout false bottom right here through previous support. So breakout through 37, and then a wipeout bottom bouncing in front of 37, and now it's trying to take out the top. Generally speaking, this 38.30 breakout, I'd be all over for the afternoon. But if you take that today, you don't have from 11 o'clock to 4 o'clock for that move to work. You've got 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock. So it becomes more of a look for some scalp long trades potentially off of this top break on Roblox. I just don't think, like everything else about this looks like a home run setup. Just recognize it doesn't have much time for it to run for you here today. So adjust accordingly. But I love the setup. Like generally speaking, I love that setup. It's a good setup. False bottom, trap some shorts, make a higher low, hold the overall trend, plenty of room to the top. It's got great stuff for a bounce off 37 here. Let's go to Adara for Money Talks.
USD down a little bit on the day. We did get some economic data this morning. The global PMI, S&P 500 flash reports. These are more or less pretty close to expected. Some were a little bit higher or lower. But right now, yeah, the USD seeing a bit of a drop. We also have USD over the HKD, seeing a significant drop here as the HKD does show some strength lately, guys.
Oh, like that's a tricky. So
Obi was I got out of all my trades for now, but yeah, we were just talking about the.
He was just talking about the coin. This was not an easy short, because I'll tell you, like it never really set up perfectly. But like that's. You could have had 115, like maybe I would have shorted 115 in here. That's never an easy one, because if I'm shorting this move on weakness, I'm shorting it here. 9 times out of 10, I'm in this trade and not getting that one. Like I'm in this trade that stops out the high, and then I'm scrambling to get back in underneath. I'm not going to chase the move at 1050. That's not an easy trade. It's certainly one that is, you could have it, but I don't think it's an easy one. As the market just dipped down again, I'm going to get trailed out here. It looks like on Xpeng. We did get that fill at 70s, so we are just in the last piece that I would have thought we could make one push through 75, and I get the last out in like 80s or 90s. Not sure that's going to happen. If we break back beneath 50s, I'm just out at break even, as I said, still holding the last piece. Fisker not really doing anything. Alex Davis, I just had to average in a ton to save my, Generally speaking, that's not something you want to do. Like averaging in a ton so that you can turn a bad trade into a good trade, it's going to work sometimes, right? Like if you, like just as an example here, and because I happen to be on this chart, like I like the long in Xpeng today, breaking out the high at 1850. But if I just like the long generally and went like long, yeah, if you were long sitting in that trade for that break at the open at 1828, you could have just averaged into this and it would have worked. The dangerous thing about that is you average into this, it's a monster win. Monster, because your average price is like 1805 or 1810. That's a huge winning trade. If you're able to take that, this is actually going to stop out any second now. But if you do that, it's a huge winning trade, bigger than just taking it late. However, remember, it's not just about what happens this time, it's what if you did that trade 100 times out of 100. And the problem is when you do that and it doesn't work, you are maximum leverage in the worst possible situation. And if it breaks down, you're going to get extra slippage down here, and that's how accounts get blown out. And that's how you end up in a situation where your losing days are much bigger than your winning days because you've broken a rule all the way in. Yes, when it works, it's good. But I promise you, when you're in here on that, you're very happily taking a lot of this out when the breakout is above the pre-market high. They just allow it to set up. Like if you're really patient and you like that long off the pre-market levels, it sets that up for you right at 10 o'clock. And you could just be willing to miss all this and not get the bottom. Getting the bottom feels really good. But you can sit all of that nonsense out and just take the consolidation and then be in the same thing that you had to sweat if you took it at 9:30. It's always it's easy to say that, and I get in the front of it all the time too. Like I get in early all the time. It's human nature. Like look at these entries in Fisker. It just happened to hold the low. Like I was doing the same nonsense. But you just got to understand. Like I stopped it out there, got back in, took more, realized don't need the extra leverage, got right out. Like you just got to be able to manage it. It's not working. Like I could fight this all I want. It's holding support, but it's also not really working for me. It's giving very, very small wins. So I'm not going to sit there fighting that stock. So better to take a loss than average. In a general sense, yes. I think you want to be averaging in if it's part of your trading plan. Like if your plan is, I'm just going to use this chart because I happen to be on it. If my plan is to buy dips into 210, the previous close, because I think it's an upward trending stock with support at that potential level, then, and I want to start it at 220, I don't know where it's going to bounce, then maybe my plan is to go long a quarter here at 2020 all the way down to 210 with a stop at 2, and I think it's going to squeeze. But I don't know where it's going to bounce, and I'm leveraging off of that level. Well, then I can't go all in at 2020 because I think I should be going all in with an average price of 210. If that's part of your plan, then execute it that way. But if you're just averaging in because it's against you so that you can get a better average price and then a small bounce is going to put you back into green, that's what I think makes no sense. So it's a matter of having a plan of action. If it's part of your plan, fair enough. If it's not part of your plan, don't do it. So one more. Ty, thank you very much, Ty Bryant. Sending virtual rum and raisin ice cream to you. This actually came up only in the chat. Never said this out loud. I love apple fritters. Everybody knows this. But rum and raisin ice cream, that is like my second jam. Like there's a spot, and if you're West Indian and you're from Antigua, you'd know this. There is one particular shop in downtown St. John's, Antigua, which has the single best rum and raisin you've ever had in your whole life. It's just it's life changing. And the cool thing is there used to be, and so this is a longer story, but it doesn't matter. There used to be this really cool wine shop, right next to it, and it was owned by this couple from one was from South Africa, and they were the two coolest people you meet ever. And you'd get your rum and raisin ice cream, and then you'd go over there, and it's the weather's perfect, have a glass of wine, and just chat with whoever is there. I love the island life too. It's just.
Boy. Yeah, I was. I don't know if I told you. I lived a little bit of the island life while in school. I was St. Martin and on Saba. Have you heard of Saba?
Yeah, I didn't. You never told me that.
So I lived on Saba for a few years there. Spent about a year in Grenada as well. So yeah, I love the island life. I love that you can just depend on it to be like 30 degrees every day, rain or shine. It's absolutely beautiful. The vibe, the culture, oof. Definitely got me thinking about retirement on a potential island there. Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you, I mean, look, when I retire, there is a strong possibility some aspect of that is going to be in the West Indies somewhere. Just a couple of things here. So everyone's asking if you went to medical school, because a lot of Canadians, I have friends that did medical school as well in the Caribbean, because it'd be like the U.S. to the Caribbean. Sometimes it's just easier to do it there. But
yes.
it was medical.
Yeah. It was.
Yeah, and that's a very common thing. Obi said that before, but some people were just asking.
I dropped out though. I'll be real. I dropped out. I was
Which is
like,
fair.
This is not really. It's not necessarily for me. I was sold a certain type of lifestyle, and when you start to realize what it is, it's just like, all right, well, you know. But
Brother,
the experience was great. Like the life experience, like I learned a lot, and again, no regrets, right? Like medical knowledge is going to help you throughout your life. There's no doubt about that. And yeah, so and now like when I read like a biotech article, I can call fugazi. You know what I mean?
So this is a valuable skill that we're going to start abusing you for. Every time there's a low float runner that's a biotech, we're just going to bug Obi to explain to us whether that news is really big news or not.
There was a kicker.
But it's only 1 minute to go, and I got to get to a couple things here. Corleone, yes, I do watch cricket, but TLT is bouncing. You're getting a big move up. I'm only in Xpeng, which just bounces well. I'm taking some profit there, but Tesla is continuing its break. If you took the Tesla breakout, congratulations to you. Look, like I said, I liked Mara, I liked ARM, I liked Xpeng today. Those were my plans for the long trade. I took all three of them. But if you took Tesla on the break and prioritized that, congratulations. The market may not do this, but there have been some good long opportunities for you. Just to quickly go over what's happening in TLT, I actually saw someone in the chat saying, if you're not in the morning chat, you're missing some good discussion, by the way, before we even come on air. I always see really, really good trade ideas going through some of the regulars. And one of them was, I don't know who said it, because sometimes I'm doing my own thing, preparing, and I might miss who said something. But I did hear I'm buying a TLT dip in the pre-market by somebody. I remember hearing that. So when it dipped, it bounced off 89.80. You got a nice bounce. It just bounced off that level again. So hopefully somebody actually had that. Congratulations to you. There haven't been a lot of great longs, but there have been some good, strong breakout trades to be had. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. We have a couple of hours to go. We're going to go to the midday. You're going to get your learn on like normal, and then Obi and I will be back at 12 to take you into the close, which is at 1 p.m. today on a holiday shortened day. With that said, let's get to the professor and Adara.
See you guys soon.
Hello.
What is up, beautiful people? Welcome to Learn How to Trade, formerly known as Midday Show. That is your girl, Adara. I'm Sharif, and we're loving having you on this very shortened day, but we're going to make the most of it nonetheless.